Hey everyone, I'm Evan and welcome to another episode of the Prof Noctis Show. Thanks for joining us. This week we are joined by the amazing Philip Hartshorn and Aliya Will. Wade, what can we expect?
This episode is wholesome and inspiring in a lot of different ways, in addition to just geeking out over Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Philip and Aliya have an amazing love story, and we get to hear about it and all of the ways that it has come to where it is today. And then we get to hear about their shared passion for Final Fantasy VII, as well as get into some really cool theories. You're going to love this episode. So make sure you like and subscribe. And with that, let's get it going and let's mosey.
Let's mosey.
Hey everybody, welcome back. And today we are with two of my favorite people in the whole world. We are with, where do I even begin? Cosplayers, actors, social media sensations, guests on morning talk shows, just like international superstars. Just generally great people. Phil Hartshorn and Aliya Will. Welcome to the show, you guys.
Thank you. You're too kind. It's great to be here.
We're so happy to be here.
Yeah, we're excited.
I'll be honest, I have been looking forward to this interview for months now. Like, we talked and we were like, we got to get you on the show. Like, I'm doing this lecture series. Let's find a time, all this kind of stuff. And then your world has just exploded with all of these opportunities and all of these cool things. And I was like, oh no, we're going to miss them. And so, but we are so glad that you were able to find the time to be here, because honestly, like, I am so excited to talk to you, not just about Rebirth, but just to hang out with you guys. So thank you so much for being here.
Us too. Thank you so much.
We are so excited. We couldn't miss this.
Yeah, oh man. So just a little bit of background. We met back in LA for the Final Fantasy XVI event. Is that right? That was the first time.
Yeah, that was...
I believe so. Yeah, in
person.
Like,
we were like ships passing in the night. We had a couple of really good conversations, but we kept getting pulled away by different things. And then we found each other a few other times at like PAX East, and then just randomly online at different ventures and stuff. But this is the first time that we've actually had like a real conversation.
A real sit-down conversation.
Like this.
This is great. Yeah.
Just incredible stuff. So for all of our viewers that I can't imagine, but if they haven't ever heard of you, who are you and what do you do?
You want to start?
Okay, sure. I'm Aliya. I am a cosplayer and a lover of storytelling. So I'm super excited to get to talk to y'all, because we all love stories. We all love good stories, which is, I think, what Final Fantasy is the total greatest of all time when it comes to storytelling. So I'm very happy to be here. And yeah, that's me.
Thanks. I am Philip Hartshorn. I am a filmmaker. I love Final Fantasy, lifelong fan, and voice actor. As you might have seen some of our clips where I, break the microphone by screaming very loud. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, lifelong fan of Final Fantasy and storytelling and myth. That's why I'm really excited to talk to you guys today about all this stuff, because I know you're big fans as well. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a great transition into something we wanted to ask, is a little bit about the stories that have inspired you. Maybe some ones that you grew up with, ones that made you kind of fall in love with storytelling and kind of helped you connect with each other. So what are some of those stories that have been meaningful to you? And tell us a little bit more about kind of how you got to be the person that you are today, and maybe kind of some of how that got you guys connected.
I'm just going to say I really like that question.
That's a great question.
I don't think anyone's asked that in an interview. That's such a cool question.
Yeah, it's very thoughtful.
We always talk about that. The fact that books have really shaped us and have filled our childhood with so much wonder and whimsy, and just sort of shaped so much love for a good story and good characters. Would you like to start this time?
Yeah, I mean, I would say right away, Star Wars, The Princess Bride, Lord of the Rings. I mean, these are things that, especially Lord of the Rings, accessing it through film And then I remember as I'm watching it, like a little kid, and my mom and dad being like, "Oh yeah, Lord of the Rings." Like I remember like reading this in school and something like, "This is a book? What?" And then just picking up the book and just like devouring everything Tolkien and kind of getting lost in the idea that somebody can create. I mean, really, Tolkien's the OG fantasy creator, as sort of modern fantasy that we consider. And that someone can create their own whole entire universe, language, myth, religion in this place, and have so many people engage with it and find joy in it. It was just so inspiring to me. And then, of course, Final Fantasy. As a little kid, I remember playing Final Fantasy just Final Fantasy at my grandma's house on like an NES, and just being like, what is this math inducing game, and why is it so hard? Me and my brother not understanding grinding and getting gil and stuff, just dying over and over again, restarting again. So much
Relatable.
fun. But again, just getting lost in this world, in this place. And then from there, just discovering a lifelong enjoyment of exploring stories, creating stories, and whether it's from our cosplay we do together, our acting, our engaging with art and our sort of art analysis that we do. Just love it from day one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. For me as a kid, I was totally absorbed by books. I loved the Odyssey. I loved, as you said, I loved Lord of the Rings. The Hobbit is obviously just a classic. The perfect story, in my opinion, is something like The Hobbit, where there's wonder, there's characters that are rich. It's like a great story. It's not super complicated, but it hits home every time. There's something for everybody, I think, there. And I think that's why I was drawn to Final Fantasy. I was actually not, I didn't even know about Final Fantasy, really, until I met Philip, and he got me into this. He got me into this world, and it's like, I thank him for it, but I'm also like, why did you do this? Because now I'm completely obsessed.
Well, we're glad you're here.
Notebooks full of just Final Fantasy notes and theories, and just needing to scribble something down because I need to process what I just witnessed. But it's been fantastic as a story lover to dive into the world of Final Fantasy, because nobody does characters like Final Fantasy, I feel.
No.
Characters are what really draws me into story. I'm reading Name of the Wind right now, and I'm like,
little Patrick Rothfuss.
oh my god.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
Okay, we'll talk.
Yeah. We'll talk.
Yeah.
But like another book with strong characters. So I've always really been drawn to stories where characters are really well thought, well fleshed out, meaningful, relatable. I've always really enjoyed that. So Final Fantasy was a super easy, no brainer. But how about you? What kind of stories do you like?
Well, I'm a lot like Phil. I read a lot of sci-fi growing up, Star Wars books. I really enjoyed those. And I also really like these books. I don't know if you heard of them, the Redwall books. They're about little...
The Redwall books.
Oh, yeah? Okay, great. Yeah, you guys
oh
like
my God, obsessed.
Yeah, they were great. This idea that there was this mystical medieval battle and struggle and story happening outside of my yard and my lawn was really great for my imagination when I was a little kid. I really, really enjoyed those books. But I've noticed that a lot of the stories that you're talking about are stories about friendship and relationship and connection and overcoming challenges kind of together. It seems like something that you had in The Princess Bride and obviously in Final Fantasy and in Lord of the Rings. And I wonder what impact you see those having on your connection when you've gotten together. Were those stories and values things that you were able to pull from kind of richly as you were dating and getting to know each other, and some of the impact that having those similar values and stories had on your ability to connect and how close you got?
I mean, listen, certainly just our love of, I mean, one of the things I loved about our kind of courting was that one of the things we did was we read Dune together. And it's
wow.
Yeah.
So romantic, right?
So romantic, you know what I mean? It was so cool to kind of have this like book club with each other, and we would talk on the phone every day and talk about what we read and stuff. And it was just such a joyful thing, but so art focused and just so celebrating everything that we talk about on the daily now, as opposed to just like, Like I've never done that before. It was really special.
Oh.
It was a really special thing. So yeah, we
And Herbert is a really romantic name. Like, let's read
yeah,
Dune.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Apocalyptic,
Classic.
Herbert.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, but no, it was great. I
Oh
mean,
my
that,
God.
and then, like you said, not even knowing Final Fantasy, but I think you said this to me, like kind of seeing my enthusiasm for it. Like when you first came to my stream and I was playing as Zell, punching a dragon in jorts, as she describes it, and being like, "What is
jorts,
Final
yeah.
Fantasy? What is going on? Why is he boxing a dragon wearing jean shorts? Like, what's going on?" And I was also taking smelling salt at the time because my chat made me do that. Real smelling salts like they do in Final Fantasy.
Are you just cosplaying Florida Man?
Yeah,
at that
Florida
point?
Man.
Here I am. I just come out of the swamp. This is it. It's
In jorts.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. In jorts. Yeah, it's literally just like Florida, but in her case, to see it inside a video game was crazy. Yeah.
Pretty good. I would love a Florida edition of Final Fantasy. We've had deserts, we've had mountains. Florida would be the best Final Fantasy.
It seems like more of a GTA style game. It could be that. It could be like
Hey,
swamp,
That's
like
true.
Okie Vinoki. We've already had that. We had that with
Yes.
Miami Vice, and then now we need it back.
I don't know. Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy has so many crossovers that I would love a GTA FF crossover like that, where it's like, that'd be.
Isn't that just Final Fantasy 15?
Pretty much, yeah. Have you seen the mod? I think it's like GTA 5, the mod, where it's like Sora boxing Noctis and just like knocking him out. So it is the funniest thing ever.
I can't.
Yeah, it wounds me. It's
Yeah.
not my boy Noctis.
Oh, no, that's a nephew. That's our nephew.
I can't even look at it. I gotta just.
He's been through enough. He doesn't deserve that.
So, okay, this seems like a good time to tell us a little bit about how you met, because like we've jumped into the romance book club, but how did all of this start? Because like there's seldom a conversation online about one of you where it doesn't involve the other. It's like, well, Aliya and Phil and Aliya, them, and I was like, at the start of my journey, I was like, I don't know them, and then it was all of you on all of my feed. So. How did you guys meet? And I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, so
that's a funny story.
Our story meeting is pretty interesting. Yeah. We met at Comic-Con. And if you've never been to Comic-Con, it's essentially 100,000 people, in cosplay from various different IPs and everything. So I decided to go to Comic-Con, just got back from the Shaolin Temple in China. I was feeling a little crazy, as you might suspect. And I was cosplaying as Tingle from The Legend of Zelda. If you don't know, it's probably the most ridiculous character in Zelda, possibly in gaming ever. And it's kind of like this middle-aged man who like decided he wants to be like a young man and just make maps, and like it's really interesting. But I was like, I'm gonna go around in a skin-tight green suit.
Yes.
In Comic-Con.
Yes, that's
a very charitable description of Tingle, by the way.
It's a very charitable, like the best description. He doesn't deserve it. Yeah.
Wow. And I was an elf.
Yeah, she was like this jaw-dropping, awesome elf with like furs and a bow and all arms to the teeth. She looked awesome, and we have a picture. It's hysterical. We'll just send it if you want to show. But yeah, it was unbelievable. So, anyways, I'm walking with my friends. It's time to go to lunch. It takes like 2 hours to leave Comic-Con when you want to go to lunch. There's 100,000 people. I'm walking, and I said, "This is a proposal." But out of a room of literally thousands of people, her smile stood out to me like sunlight, just as if it was blinding in the face. Like, because there's a lot of weird energy in these conventions. There's a lot of nervousness. There's a lot of like claustrophobic kind of crowded energy. Yeah, and there's a lot of kind of fakeness. I don't know if that's the word. Fakeness. Sort of. I see her smile. In a room of thousands of people, her smile stands out to me. And it's just this smile, a genuine nature, kind, present energy. I've never seen anything like it in my life. And I know I have to meet this person. It's like my destiny. So I start pushing through the crowd
Dress up
I have
as
to get
Tingle.
there, and my friends are like, "What's he doing? You know, stop him!" And I'm going through the crowd with Majora's Mask, and people are like, getting out of the way because they're just scared. It looks like a lunatic coming. It's one of the scariest designs ever. If you've seen Majora's Mask, so I
scary.
finally get there, and I'm kind of like, I come out of the crowd, and I get to Aliya, and what do you see? I don't know. You take it.
Well, I see Majora's Mask, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, I think I was equally scared.
And there's this moment where we just look at each other.
Yeah, and I was pretty scared because Majora's Mask is
It's
terrifying.
menacing.
Yeah.
It's menacing.
Yes.
And so I was like, oh,
Yes.
oh my gosh, what's happening? Help! But he takes off the mask, and I see Philip's face,
Aw.
and we like, you know, the what do you call it?
Jawline.
The first sight.
The jawline.
Yeah.
Wait, you know what? The jawline.
It was that jawline. I was like,
I'm gonna hear him out actually.
Yeah.
I have a question. Was his hair sticking out under the mask? So it was, or was
Yeah.
it tucked back, or did he have short hair at that point?
He actually had short-ish hair.
It was in between this and short. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an important detail.
And
This
it was
viewers want to know.
with the mask covered. With the mask off, you can see
Yeah.
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, oh my god. I was like in a trance, and so
No, we had this
yeah, we had a like
strange
one of those
feeling. Like,
butterflies.
yeah,
So-
I don't know how to describe it again. And yeah, and again, I said it in the proposal, but it's like I was trying to figure out what it meant for years when I met her, and I finally did it. The proposal. It's like it really felt like I had known her and loved her already forever. If that makes any
Oh.
sense.
Oh.
We might get into our Final Fantasy conversation, kind of like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, like
Wow.
this kind of idea is I had already loved her forever.
Prof knocked
what
his
I'm
show
saying.
first.
You see what I
Congratulations.
mean?
yeah.
Thank you.
Did y'all believe in love at first sight before this?
It's like I would have liked to believe in it, but I'd never felt it.
Oh, you wanted to
I
believe.
guess like how
Yeah.
can you believe it until it happens to you?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I suppose like I'm sure I would have liked to believe it, but I never had it. So
Right. Well,
you know what I mean?
and
But
it
then
also
happens. So
it also sounds kind of shallow, doesn't it? Like love at first sight, where it's like, wow, she's pretty. I love her. It's like that's it. Like you just see her, and but like I said, what we felt was this kind of cosmic feeling, and we
Yeah.
tried to express it. Like I said, it took me until the proposal, really thinking about what the true meaning was to get it, because it was always just like this gravitation that like
I understand.
I am going to be with this person in some extreme capacity, and I like need to see them again, and this feeling of comfort, of belonging, of home.
Hmm.
It was a powerful feeling, you know, all joking part of the story aside. And then yeah, we met for maybe 5 minutes. It's 100,000 people crowded. I somehow like made space in the swarms of people to get a little video together, make a fun little thing where I was posing with the mask, and she had the bow and everything, and a couple of your friends. And then yeah, we got Instagram exchanges.
That
in the
was
midst of all this
my
chaos,
question.
and then-
What did you connect on? An Instagram?
yeah, yeah. And then I was like instantly like, I have to see her again for those reasons I talked about, this kind of cosmic connection. I have to see her again. So I initially, you know, we started talking and chatting. I said, oh, so are you going to be at Anime NYC? It was another big US convention that comes up.
Wow.
Are you going to be there? And she's like, no. I was like, all right, I guess I won't see her again. Yeah, that was it. So
oh man, I wasn't gonna go.
she wasn't going. So I was like, okay. And then COVID hits. And then because of this, a lot of people were stuck inside with a lot of time. Couldn't really go a lot of places. So we just kept talking. And we realized we both were fencers.
Yeah.
We both love swordplay. We both love drawing. We both love art. We both love reading. We both love stories. We both love music and play piano. And the list goes on and on and on. And we're just like, what is this connection? It just kept expanding. And yeah,
Yeah. If you know fencing, there are 3 weapon types, and
this is funny. Yeah.
and I immediately knew he was a saber fencer because they're like they're the craziest, if that makes sense.
Could you just, for those who don't know, obviously
Yeah,
Wade and
not
I are
us.
very well versed in the 3 fencing types. What are the 3 fencing types? What are their personalities?
Help our viewers.
And reiterate and tell us a little bit more about how you knew cosmically. Saber. I can't make a pun
saber.
on this because I don't know a different word for this, a sword device.
So there's foil, and then there's epee, and then there's saber. And foil is like a light weapon, you have the torso as the target,
Yep.
and it's very much like a classic fencing.
Yeah, it's a little
where
more elegant. You've seen it in the
it's
Olympics.
elegant. You use the end of the weapon.
Okay.
It's a thrusting weapon.
It's a
Yeah,
stabby.
thrusting.
So you're thrusting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
the clinical
And
term is
then
a stabby.
It's stabby, yeah.
Yeah.
FA is a little heavier of a weapon,
Yep.
but the whole body's the target. It's a little
Yes.
more like chess. It's
very strategic.
A little more strategic.
Yep.
And then saber is like, if you think of pirates, that's saber.
It's
They
literally
slash-
just slashing. And yeah, it's just chaos. Like
It's chaos.
savage chaos. So she met me. She's like, "You're a saber." When you're
saber.
like, "Yeah, yeah."
I love it. I think saber fencers are awesome.
Fencing YouTube is loving this. This is a great.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
fencing
yeah,
YouTube a thing?
exactly.
Is that a big community
and
on
this
YouTube?
is, I would say European or French Canadian fencing more focused. Of course, there's HEMA, which is like all historical European martial arts. This is specific, which you'll see in the Olympics. This is fencing.
Oh,
So yeah, very, very cool. But yeah, we just started connecting on all these levels, and it was surreal, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Like I said, we started talking on the phone because COVID, not doing too much, and then it became 5 hours on the phone a day, maybe 8 hours a day, and it's just like we can't stop talking to each other, and this how we still are now.
Aliya, what
And
is
here
this
I
like?
was-
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was learning to bake bread, like with the rest of the world.
Oh, and COVID.
And
You're saying that as some sort of like,
That's iconic, though.
like what's the word, denouement here? But
That was perfect.
saying, like, I did a
love
few
bread.
things, but
I love bread. So to me, that's
so
like
does
the coolest
Oprah.
thing ever. Yeah, I'm obsessed with bread. I
That
eat
is
it for
awesome.
dessert sometimes.
I
Yeah.
would love to learn how to
love
bake bread.
bread.
What kind of bread?
Yeah.
What's your favorite bread?
What?
Answer the question.
I was not prepared for types of bread or fencing
Get
today.
him. This is the best. Get him.
I don't know. I don't know. Give me wheat bread. I don't know.
Wheat bread's great.
Great choice.
Wheat bread is a
Strong
great
choice. Yeah.
Great job. Great choice. Great choice. Wheat bread
Don't
won overall
patronize
in the
me.
bread draft. That was great. Aliya, so what is it like from your perspective as Majora's Mask Tingle has approached you? You've exchanged Instagram information. I'm curious about the first 2 months. Like, you start to bridge that connection. You start to feel that connection. We talked about what Phil was experiencing, but was your experience a little bit different? And maybe from your past, how did that inform how that connection started and how quickly it grew?
Yeah. So, like, to be honest, the first few months, it was what I liked about it was the feeling of a new friendship, because I felt like we had so much in common. So we always talk about this, like, we have a very strong foundation of friendship.
I think that's why our relationship is strong. Yeah, honestly, like a
Yeah.
strong,
Right. So
deep friendship.
yeah, we had so much time to develop that friendship that, like, we already knew we secretly had feelings for each other.
Oh, yeah.
Just never said, we never talked about it.
Yeah.
Wow.
But we had that time to really deepen our friendship and get to know each other, and form that foundation. So for me, it was just like wonderful to have somebody I could confide in or talk to and learn about, because there's a lot to learn about here. Like, this,
I remember you distinctly saying, so we met. I remember checking your Instagram because you meet somebody in cosplay, or you don't really know who they are.
it's-
What do they
She was
really
dressed
look
like an
like?
elven warrior. So like I got her Instagram and I look at it, I'm like, whoa! Like, first of all, wow, she's really beautiful. But second of all, like, this is her. This is her energy. This is who she is, like, outside of cosplay. And I distinctly remember you saying you checked my Instagram and you're like, oh, he's crazy. Yeah, Shaolin Temple. Like, what is going on? Yeah, he's insane. Yeah,
it's
cool.
like, he's fighting people, which I think is really cool. But I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you mean you're just at the Shaolin Temple and you're Tingle today.
And a saber.
What does it mean? And a
a
saber.
cocktail of.
We knew that. But it was exciting for sure. And there's always ways he still excites me. And like, there's just so much about him that is so cool. And he's always doing cool stuff. I mean, he forged my ring, which I think is completely metal and is super cool. Like, what do you mean?
Oh, and there it is.
That's
So,
amazing.
He did a job class. Like, what is it called?
I did a job class switch.
Yeah.
I hopped over.
you really
to
did. Wow.
Master and did that. I've never touched jewelry in my life, and did that. Now, listen, I talk about my documentaries I've made, my whatever stuff I've done. This is my proudest piece that I've ever done in my life, right here. and it is like the culmination of a life of everything, you know. And I am so happy, like down to the moment. It was part of the piece, and then her wearing it finishes the piece. You know, it's just I'm so proud of it.
So sweet. Wade, you probably want to know more about the details of everything. I need to slip in. Have you both always been so multidisciplinary as like when you grew up, and how has being multidisciplinary informed kind of the people you are today and your kind of professional aspirations? Because it's not common to focus on so many things and be successful at them all. You jerks.
Right.
That's great.
That was funny. Thank you.
That's really kind.
Yeah, it's incredibly kind. Listen, for me, I've always just loved art. Daydreamer, man. I'm a daydreamer. I spent all day drawing. Classic math class. Couldn't tell you anything about it, but my notebook was full of ideas and drawings and everything since I was a kid. And that's really all the training that I've had. Same with film, which I got into film by being inspired by Final Fantasy and all these awesome kind of cinematic stories. Just do it. Just get out, grab a camera, get out and shoot. And then you learn the fundamentals by doing. I eventually started my own film business, art business, by being like, I have gathered a lot of skills during my life. I've spent thousands of hours honing. If I can't make some money to survive with these skills, the world is broken. But straight up, like the world is nothing.
Fair.
So
yeah.
I was like, I'm going to try and do this. It's not advised at all. My friends told me I was insane, but I'm going to try and do it. And that's kind of just always how I've lived my life. I want to do art, tell stories, kind of exist in that energy. And being multidisciplinary is pretty much just a symptom of, loving so many different art pieces and wanting to explore it. Playing piano, same thing. I taught myself. I had a situation where I thought I might die when I was around 20 years old. I had a tumor. They weren't sure if it was going to be bad or good one.
Oh.
And there was a few days where like, so you might die soon, kid. Good luck. And I was like, whoa. And I had this kind of whole shift in mentality. It's like, what have I been doing with my life? Like, why am I wasting time? I always wanted to learn piano. Why didn't I do that? So I just started learning piano when I was 20 years old. And, numerous other things, martial arts and everything else. Eradicating toxic relationships from my life, friendships, and this, stuff to kind of, what am I doing with my life? Let's focus on the good stuff. So again, just a symptom of want to be in the moment, love art in many different ways. What about you,
Aliya? Multidisciplinary, just a reminder.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Throughout life, things that I found were sort of like everything's connected in a way. And that's also what I love about Final Fantasy. I'm sure you relate to that. You love mythology, but there's so much tied with mythology and art and religion and science and technology. So throughout my life, I've always had a very deep hunger for just learning and exploring. And I'm deeply curious as a person, which means that sometimes I can, maybe get a little bit, I don't know.
Distracted, you mean?
Distracted by just learning things. But, I've always loved art. I found that because I loved art, I would also like, science. I've played piano my whole life. You can learn a lot about music through mathematics. I really like mathematics as well. But I also found that video games tickle that part of my brain that loves all those things, like art, music. We were just playing Dragon Quest. It's visually stunning. They pay a lot of attention to the audio and the music. There's just like poetry as well. We can talk about Name of the Wind as well with poetry, of course, but and science. So I've always just been really interested about taking it all in, all at once.
Yeah.
And so that's just how I've lived my life, I guess. But y'all can relate too. Y'all can relate.
Oh yeah.
We can. And
Yeah.
it's so interesting to hear this from the two of you because, at least from the outside perspective, the two of you, it's obvious you love life. You cherish life. And to hear some of this background is really important because, again, I know that Instagram and everything that we just kind of scroll through isn't telling the full story. But to hear from the two of you, you really are just you found things that you cherish, you love, and more than that, you found lenses through which you can enjoy the world around you. And so it's interesting to hear you, Aliya, talk about this mathematical aspect of music that kind of tickles that part of your brain, and the way that Final Fantasy speaks to each of you individually. Phil, you said something particularly insightful. You said when you had this moment where you weren't sure if you were going to live or not, like how much longer you had left, you had to get rid of certain things in your life. You felt compelled to, whether it was relationships or things like that. In a world where there are as many options as there are, and you can do everything from learning piano to martial arts at Shaolin Temple and all of this kind of stuff, and even in a loving relationship, with all of the options out there, how do you know the thing that you are spending time on is right or best for you? Do you have a way of
Good
choosing
luck.
those things?
Absolutely. I would say, no, listen, for me, it's all about how do you feel,
Okay.
right? It's kind of like the simplest answer is best. In this case, I spent time with Leah. How do I feel with her? I feel like I love life. I feel like I'm Cloud. There isn't a thing I don't cherish, right? Advent children. Do you see what I mean? Like when I'm with Aliya, I see like more of the good in everything. I feel more enjoyment with the most minute details of life. You know, cooking eggs this morning for Aliya, I felt amazing.
That
Focusing
was
on these eggs,
fire.
and this is
That's fire.
getting into some Buddhist stuff, which you may have picked up, Noctis.
Yeah.
But it's the idea of action meditation, and we can talk about this more in relation to Final Fantasy, but also an idea I learned from Shaolin Temple is when you walk, when you sleep, when you eat. That's it, right? So it's like focusing on the moment. But how do those moments make you feel? So if you're with a friend and this friend is like insulting you, kind of poking fun at you, does that feel good? You know, are you laughing because you're trying to appear a certain way and it hurts inside your heart? You know what I mean? How does it make you feel? That career choice that you're doing pays the bills. Sure, you need to survive. Well, I got to survive. I understand that.
Yeah.
But how does it make you feel? Do you want to start to explore maybe on that little free time you got something else that might make you feel a little better? You see what I mean? Like, what do you want to do? The paths in life, all, it's kind of like the multiple worlds that Sephiroth talks about, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's all different paths we could go on. But I have never felt so good than when I was pursuing this career path, doing exactly what I want, and spending time with someone who makes me feel good and loved and valued and cherished. That's it. I've spent time with people who don't make me feel any of those things, but maybe society told me I should anyway, right? Or something like that. So we do things of that nature, but it's like, do you want to do this? How does it make you feel? So it's an interesting conversation, but I think a lot of it boils down to be in touch with how you feel, your emotions. And when you walk, when you eat. Period.
I love that because it's a sense of present mindfulness, not future ideation, which is helpful at times, or over reflection on the past, which can also be helpful, but it is an embrace of this moment and saying, I'm grateful, I'm mindful, I'm here.
Yeah,
And
your attitude is everything than what I just said, pretty much, right? Like,
that's amazing.
We are very grateful people. We're grateful for this talk with you guys. We're having a great time. We're trying to just like enjoy the moment. But I mean, something we do constantly is, we'll talk about sometimes at the end of the day, like what we enjoyed about the day, what was your favorite part of the day, and just in every moment, just try to be present and try to enjoy it. Because it's very easy to be like, we're doing whatever task and you're worrying about 90 other things that you have to do later in the day, tomorrow, the week after.
Yeah.
Worried about the past. That person made me feel so bad back then. I can't. I still feel terrible thinking about it. That's over now. Where are you right now? Right, like that's over. That's never going to happen again. That's not a thing right now. Like, you are here. You're existing in another world that's gone, and you're suffering from a thing that is over. Right. So this has to do with a lot of self-healing, obviously, too. But I mean, it's very blunt in sort of a Buddhist way. It's like, that's over now. So yeah, forget about that. We're here now. And like, don't worry about the future. What am I going to do tomorrow? It's like, I'm talking to Professor Noctis right now. That's all I got to worry about. Right? I'm living the dream. So it almost feels oversimplified. Like, I remember the first time I heard it, I'm like, easy for you to say.
Yeah.
Just stop thinking about the past. Like, It's over. Why would you think about that? It's like, it actually kind of is a wake up call.
Sure.
It's so simple.
We still
Right?
struggle to
Oh yeah.
like, because it's a lot to ask of someone to sort of, hey, it's okay.
Yeah.
We're living here now.
Yeah.
It takes practice and
And I think it takes
reflection.
spending time with the people who make you feel good.
Yeah.
Because I've gotten better at that as I spend more time with Leah.
And there's
You see
less
what I mean?
there's less instances where I need to
Right.
you know.
Kind of engage with old things that made you feel not so good.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, well, I'm with this person, and the kind of reassurance of like, oh yeah, I've had this many days where I feel good. So like, why would I be as worried that that's not going to happen? Do you see what I mean? Like you trust in the person, you trust in their ability to cherish you and heal you as well. And I think that's the most important thing is you got to be in touch how you're feeling. If you're feeling bad every single day, maybe examine what's going on. Right.
Sounds a lot like a lot of boundaries management too. These are the ways that I'm going to intentionally allow these things to impact my life, my future, my decisions, and they're allowed to exist in their space, and I'm allowed to choose how much they impact me, which is, I think some active language. Aliya, for you, as you develop professionally and as you kind of grew up, how did you make decisions? How did you end up where you are now? And maybe what were some of those critical junctures where you could have gone on some other paths, but you ended up here today with us? How do you process that, and what was that journey like for you?
That's a great question. I don't know. No, well, basically it's Philip has helped me a lot with this because I used to find myself getting really caught up in what society or like what I'm used to dictate where I should go instead of how I feel inside. So he's very receptive and perceptive of me as what level I'm at or how I am emotionally. So he'll let me know, ask me if I'm all right, if something's off. And he's really helped me pursue what I really love, even though it's scary sometimes, especially, something in the arts. It's not easy to just go, I'm just going to do this now.
Yeah, which
it's
she
not
did.
easy.
And I'm very proud of her.
Yeah. Well, cause my professional career is in STEM fields. So as I said, I think everything is connected in some way, but it still felt like a big jump to go from that to a more art focused.
Did you study that in college and school, and you worked in a career doing something with STEM, or what did that look like?
Yeah. And it was totally fine, and I learned a lot and I enjoyed it, but I didn't feel totally satisfied or happy. And he noticed that. He's like, this something isn't right here. I don't think you're enjoying. And he was right.
I mean, I have said this since almost the moment I met you when we started talking. It's like if you decide to stream, if you decide to do this, if you decide to do that, you will conquer the field, be at the top, no question. There's an energy about you, and there's a sort of draw to you that is so genuine, so engaging. You have a great voice. You're so kind and everything. Like, you're gonna be at the top. So it depends on just what you want to do. And then later, I would see her like very stressed about her work. And I remember just saying, like, I feel like you can offer the world like so much if you kind of allow yourself to share your artwork more and kind of share the energy that you possess with people and make them feel better about life, maybe. And I'm proud of her. I was like, I'm crazy. So I would, very quickly be like, yeah, just quit the job. I've done it many times. And just say, I'm going to start my art business and film business. I'll just literally quit this high paying, amazing job and stuff. But I was like, that's me. Make sure you want to do it. And she came to the decision. I think right in that moment, she's like, yeah, I'm done right now.
Yeah. Well, and I also think that it didn't quite allow me. And also I just felt like I needed more time with my family, which I really didn't get to have, which is very important to me. I wasn't given, I didn't have enough time to spend with my family, with my loved ones, which I value quite a bit. And so all of that combined, I just found that I wanted to have a life that I could sort of bring together all of the disciplines that I love instead of just maybe tying myself to one of those things and not have time for all the other things that I truly love. So I think it was one of the best decisions for sure. And now we're here, and I get to pursue what I love, and I am successful at it, thankfully. And I really enjoy what I do, and I get really excited about it. And I wake up every day really excited to pursue it more or dig deeper into it and see what I can find. But yeah, I appreciate the question. Thank you for asking it.
It's such a great answer, right? Because you're able to share not only your experience but also some real life lessons for our viewers, our hearers. One of the most common conversations I have with my students is them asking, how do you know what you're doing is right? Like my major or the person that I want to marry and all of this kind of stuff. And so we begin to ask questions, and you've kind of answered them for yourselves here. I try to ask in three different fields. What's the rhythm of life that you want? And sometimes that's economic, sometimes that's time. And who are the people you want to be a part of that life? That's number two. And number three, where do you want to do it? So it's kind of like the rhythm, the people, the place. And if you can get 2 out of 3 of those, you're going to be pretty good. But if you can get 3 out of 3 of those, oh man, like you're going to be living the dream. But it sounds like you have been able to answer those questions for yourselves at every point of the journey. Simply not because you were thinking of the future or the past, but in this moment, this is the right decision. And I'm feeling it intrinsically. This is the life that I'm envisioning for myself. I'm saying yes now. And sometimes it's a risk, but for you, it sounds to be worth the risk. Would you say that's accurate? Is that kind of the thought process? What might you add to that?
I mean, listen, I've had a life, I don't want to say riddled with uncertainty, but there's been a lot of tough decisions I've had to make, a lot of kind of like winding paths, that have taken me all over the world. I ended up in China, like I said, and, living as a warrior monk and everything. There's a lot of different choices that you have to make, and never in my life have I ever felt this level of certainty with Aliya. Like I said, the moment I saw her, it's just like, this person makes me feel good. This person makes me feel a sense of belonging and home and valued. And I guess my only point with that is a lot of people might just be like, oh, this feels good enough. So I guess I have to have a significant other. So I guess I'll just do this. Or, I'm feeling a bit lonely, so I'm going to do this because I have an option. It's an okay option. I'm going to do it. They make me feel kind of bad, but there's other benefits, and I guess I'll just, no. I think it's really worth waiting for that feeling of belonging and value and kind of self-value. And it all comes down to self-love. I hate to say it, but you are only going to attract someone or be kind of a palatable option to someone, I feel, if you have figured yourself out, if you've learned to love yourself, or at least you're working on it. Like, nobody's perfect, right? In that kind of energy, because if you feel extremely lonely, extremely desperate, you're going to possibly make decisions that aren't in your best interest, and just kind of like maybe spend time with careers and people that don't make you feel the best. So it's worth waiting for a good feeling. Try your options in a career. Test out the waters. How do you feel? And also another thing with career path is like, a lot of people will say, oh, I just got laid off from my job that I thought I would have, forever. Or I just got, pay cuts and disrespected and literally just fired. That job that makes you feel bad every day is not even guaranteed. So life is not guaranteed. Sephiroth could summon meteor tomorrow, right? And then there's no more planet. No. Like, seriously. And seriously. Well, not fully seriously.
We sent a space probe and deflected a meteor. We practiced. All right. We did it. We darted it. Okay. We did it. Humanity can save itself. Finite. Armageddon is real, the movie.
Yeah. You should spend your life, which could end in 5 minutes, meaningfully. And find some peace and find some enjoyment. And maybe it's that job that's a little bit scary, but you love. Maybe do that, because you might get fired from this cushy job anyway in today's world. So
yeah.
Anyway, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to push a quick pause because Wade, I think, is frozen for me on one smiley face. Is he moving for you guys?
Oh yeah, I thought he was just like this. Really, it's a beautiful frame.
That's such a nice frame.
It's a great frame. But the internet company was doing work in his neighborhood, and we had deep fears that this could happen. So let me see if he has
Deep fears.
reached out.
That is the perfect frame.
That is a perfect frame.
I
That's
know.
hysterical.
I'm honestly probably just going to keep this rolling because this is good content. This is also where we would transition anyways to start talking about Final Fantasy. So, all right, everybody, it's that time of the episode where we get to know each other a little bit better for our mini game stretch break. But before we do, we should get a little stretch in, and then we'll hit our music. So, Phil, this is our mindfulness thing. This is actually a great tie into a lot of what we've been talking about.
So much.
Phil, do you want to just give us a little like mindfulness, 30-second mindfulness exercise while we stretch?
Oh, yeah, please.
Yeah. What have you
Absolutely.
learned at the
So-
temple?
Yeah, try to sit down or do something that you find meaningful. Maybe drawing, maybe walking. You don't have to sit down, but if you're comfortable sitting down and it's not uncomfortable for you, try to just focus on your breathing. And if your mind starts to wander, catch yourself and say, "No, I'm breathing right now, and I'm sitting, or I'm walking." And as you're doing this, just try to exist in the moment. Just try to focus on your breathing, on your breath, on if you're walking, how does the air feel? How do the leaves feel under you? How does it feel to sit where you are? Are you outside? Or are you inside? Just observe what's happening to you. You start to think about that thing you're worrying about. Just catch yourself. Let's come back. Don't be mad at yourself. Don't be guilty. Just come back. Let's focus on the moment. And just try to empty your thoughts. And how does the wind feel again? How does your breath feel? Does it feel refreshing to breathe through your nose versus your mouth? Deep breaths through your nose. You feel revitalized, don't you? You feel a lot of energy. Let's focus on that. Don't let your mind wander. Again, I know you're worried about that thing you got to do. Don't worry about it. You can spare, you deserve a couple seconds to rest and just exist and be you. And then why don't you think about some stuff you're grateful for? What happened today that was all right? I know it was a tough day. We all got them. But what happened you're grateful for? What are you looking forward to? Did you get to eat today? Do you have a roof over your head? And you're doing pretty good. Some people don't have that. Let's focus on what we're grateful for. Do a couple more breaths. And just remember that everything's going to be okay. Where are you right now? That's all you got to worry about. Good?
So good.
Bill, you are like a warm hug.
I
I just
Thank you.
loved what just happened.
thank you.
Thank
That
you,
was
man.
amazing. I'll see you tomorrow when you are a voice in my headphones
appointment? Yeah.
talking me through
Yeah.
it. Well,
It's ironic that I'm holding a deadly weapon while I say that.
Yeah, it's menacing to be like, be mindful.
It's like,
You
don't let
stare
your
with a
mind wander.
blade.
Oh, you failed.
Limit break.
You
I
let
think-
your mind wander one too many times. Now you
think-
will suffer.
I think the only way to end that actual nice mindful moment would probably be to perform a sonic assault, which would be our theme music for the Swing It. Wade, you ready? 1, 2, 3.
Let's do it.
It's the part-
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, that is
That was
the,
easily, Evan, the most chaotic one, just because it was whiplash. It was like,
the harshest
Breathe
thing.
in.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the episode. It's our minigame stretch break. I'm here with Phil and our bingo wheel of vulnerability. This has numbers 1 through 50 in it. We ask a get to know you question based on what number comes out of the bingo wheel. Wade, what question deck are we pulling from today?
today we are going back to our friends at Geek Therapy Card Deck. This is a card deck for clients and therapists. 87 practices to improve thoughts, build insight, take action in your life, and de-stress.
All right. Big thanks to Geek Therapy. Now let's get our numbers in 1 through 50. Phil, as our guest, you get to pick your number first.
37.
37. Good guess. All right. What you got, Wade?
41.
All right. I'm going to go 7. All right, the number 7. So, Phil, here we go. Listener, you can hear it spinning. Phil, you just tell me when, and I will grab a bingo ball here. You clipped, but I heard you say stop. So we're going to... Okay, there it is. There's a ball coming out, and that number is 11 today. 11. So, listener, if you said 11, let us know. When we do the live streams, we do minigame stretch break games, and we sign the name of the person who gets the number right. So if you get the number right, you let us know. I'll write your name on it in Sharpie, and we'll put it in there. So, Wade, give us the 11th question here as we get to know each other.
Okay. Here it is, again from the Geek Therapy Card Deck for clients and therapists. The topic is from comics. Your mind is your superhero stronghold where all of your superheroes come together to solve life's problems. It is your impenetrable fortress. So talk about your stronghold defenses that protect you from evil forces and relate these defenses to the coping skills that you
Oh,
use
wow.
every day to protect yourself.
Okay, so my mind is a special fortress, and it has superhero powers to protect me, and I'm describing
Yes.
the powers of my mind.
Yes. That's it.
Okay, not sarcastically.
No, so seriously.
Okay, because self-deprecation is a superpower. Because
It is a superpower.
if you make fun of
maybe a
yourself
defense
before
mechanism.
other people can make fun of you, then you can't be
Okay.
hurt. Which we talked
If you can
about in the show.
detach,
That's
like
a
Sephiroth,
healthy
yeah.
way to live. That's a good way to go through your life constantly.
Isn't it?
dodging things. Yeah, that's great. Okay, superhero powers. Well, I actually need a minute to think about this one. If anybody's
Okay.
ready to go.
Okay.
I'm,
Is anybody ready?
I'm taking Sephiroth Octaslash, man. Sephiroth Octaslash is out front on mine. Nobody's
Love
getting
it.
through. He's fully powered, man. He's got Genova. He rebuilt his body. He's Bizarro Sephiroth. He's got 2 heads. He's got the Masamune. It's not an easy feat to get through him, man. Behind him, we got Cloud with full limit break. This is Advent Children Cloud, though, at level 99. He's not playing
I love
around. It's going to be dangerous. Yeah.
What are they defending
So
you
I-
from in your mind?
Yeah.
Just nonsense, just waste of time stuff like negativity, getting angry, not forgiving yourself for your past mistakes. It's in the past. Forget about it. They're just defending. Have you guys ever heard of the evil eye, which is really big in Greece? We were just in Greece. It's this blue eye. The idea of it is that it just doesn't allow any evil thoughts to get to you. It just deflects them as they come to you. So if people would say maybe a mean comment to you, just some sort of negativity, some sort of evil, like maybe they're having a bad day, so I'm going to hurt this person because I feel bad. I'm going to spread my suffering. No, just think about it like that. So that's what my superheroes are protecting me from. Sephiroth just cutting down those past self, even my own past self, who maybe would have been a little more harsh on myself, not forgiving myself for mistakes, stuff I wish I'd done better today or yesterday at my work, stuff like that. Yeah, just let's focus on the good. Let's move forward.
that's
Let's be
good.
effective.
Well, that's a powerful superhero. Also, too, I realize we haven't explained why your camera's probably different at this point because of where the episode. Wade's internet went down. So if you're wondering why we're having a different version of Wade, for those of you who are like, what's been going on for the last 5 minutes? That's all it is. Wade, what about you?
That's my superpower. Just a forever changing camera. You never know.
This is remake Wade after
It's
the
Wait,
remaster.
remake. Rebirth is right after this segment, and then
Yeah.
Return is our next episode.
Yeah.
That's my bet. So I think that my superpower would be, or at least my mind had kind of similar to Phil's, but it's like that idea of X-ray vision. I would love to be able to defend myself against like imposters, whether that's a thought or whether that's something that's just like, let's see the value and the worth of this thing before I let it into my mind space. And so to be able to see through the facade and to be like, okay, you get entry into this fortress.
It's like a bouncer.
And everything
Yeah, I
else.
like that.
Yeah, a bouncer. Oh,
So
a bouncer superpower.
Like you don't
That's
belong
right.
here. What are you doing? Like you're just
That's
like
really good.
causing bad thoughts in my head. Like leave. Yeah.
Don't we all need like a mind bouncer? Oh, that'd
Yeah.
be so great.
Well, my mind bouncer superhero is right now my dog Millie. And so I'm imagining super powered Millie, big and fluffy. And she is distracting me from catastrophizing about things that are outside of my control. So she's keeping me more present and engaged. And then when I need motivation and it's time to get some things done, she's always been my chore buddy. So she helps me unload the dishwasher. And by that, I mean, she looks at the dishwasher and then looks at the cabinets while I put them away. And don't worry, I'm not, if you've come to my house for a party or something, the dog does not interact with the clean dishes. The dog is just an observer. She's really more of a supervisor.
We were all concerned.
Yeah, she's really more,
It's like
Wade's
Nanaki.
I need to go brush my teeth. She's keeping me engaged and peppy while I'm doing that. So when I start to get distracted, like Phil mentioned in our mindfulness segment, she is reminding me of my focus and my purpose and helping me stay present in that moment. So thank you, Super Millie, for all of that. Listener, for you, whatever it is that you need, that superpower, that extra feeling like you have somebody in your corner sticking up for you, protecting your mind and keeping you focused and engaged on the things that you want in your life, just like the activity that Phil led us through. we want to say we're here for you. We hope that this has been something that you feel encouraged, that the struggles and the challenges that you're dealing with in your life are not insurmountable, but between yourself and the support networks that you have everything that you need to get through it. So thanks for taking the time to listen. Phil, thanks for taking the time to participate in our minigame stretch break, and we will see you on the other side of our episode. Bye-bye. Okay, everybody, it's that time to start talking about and get into our Final Fantasy theories. But you'll notice that we've replaced old Wade with new Wade. This is 4K Wade.
2.0, baby.
This is, they shut down the internet in his whole neighborhood, Wade. So Wade has transitioned
Wade
to his
rebirth.
phone.
It is the rebirth of Wade.
Wade rebirth. So we get a unique view of the gaming room and the recording room there, Wade. So welcome.
Yeah, and my boards, apparently.
We've got a few minutes here that we're going to chat about some Final Fantasy specific things. And then Aliya has a few other appointments that she needs to get off to. So she's going to join us for about 20 more minutes, and then we'll let her get on, and we'll keep talking with Phil a little bit. So that's kind of where we're headed, everybody. So thanks for managing the transition with us. Wade, where do you want to get started in our Rebirth and Final Fantasy conversation?
Okay, so Phil, you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I feel like this is the best transition, and I was gearing up to make it until Comcast brought Meteor down upon my neighborhood. But it's that question of how Cloud says, there's not a thing that I don't cherish. Right. And from the two of you, you have found a way to cherish so many things in life, from the love that you have for one another, to the activities, to the rhythm of life and the people and the locations that you have been able to visit. As you have gone through Rebirth, how have you thought deeply about your own experience in life, and how has that given you a framework for better understanding both the game as well as yourself? Maybe talk to us a little bit about assimilation of the themes of Rebirth in your own life.
It's a great question. What's so cool about it is playing Final Fantasy VII Original growing up lends this whole different perspective, and kind of, almost like Odysseus looking back at his journey, feeling, to going back to the remake and playing it when you're an older person, and just instantly has this. It connects you to where you were and who you were when you were young and you played it. And this is a little bit different for us because you got into it later than me, right? Yes. But like this idea of being able to view it, it's this weird kind of like transcendental feeling where you can almost like skip through time. And it's like, when I first saw this scene, with Dyne or whatever, that's like we're kind of revisiting in Rebirth, or even when I first saw Advent Children, when Cloud said that line versus Rebirth, fighting Sephiroth or whatever's happening. It's like, it's you kind of take a step back almost. You know what I mean? You can almost look at the whole picture of your life, like 10, 15, 20 years compressed into a moment. And it's like, I've changed, when I think about that. Like when I first saw Advent Children, I'm like, cool fight scene. Yeah. This is what I share. Yeah. Fight Sephiroth. Yeah. And now when I hear that, it's like, oh, this is what I cherish. My life. It's being a different man in that time frame. So it's kind of like what the game means to me shifts over the years, but those emotions almost mean more that I felt when I was a kid, because I understand what I was feeling more. Do you know what I mean? Like I've kind of grown as a person. I've become kind of closer to the man that I would have wanted to be. As in, like when I first saw Cloud, I was more of a young man, and it's like, oh man, I wish I could, do that sort of thing and not fight Sephiroth. That would be an interesting challenge.
I think you could do it.
Thank you.
You could probably take him, Phil. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. But like, just to be that man that cherishes everything, and who has grown from a place of extreme kind of like, this Cloud's been through a lot, right? Sadness and disillusionment and growing. Yeah. And then to become this man who has like found himself literally in that game, found himself and fought back against these kind of negative forces in his life and taken his identity back and everything. So long answer, right? But it's an interesting idea to kind of the scope of the story and what it's meant to me, and understanding what the story is in Rebirth. Kind of, you guys have seen my reactions to the game. I think it's the most simple answer for all the theories and everything. It is all the original game. It is all, even the new stuff is just kind of like an exploration of the ideas of the original game, which the devs have said many times now, right? And all the kind of new ideas and kind of new pathways that are growing from those original ideas still are so like enriched with those themes and those kind of like story beats and cinematic moments, and even the shots are the same and everything. It's I feel like the more it changes, the more it's the same. You know what I mean?
Oh, I definitely want to circle back to that
Yeah.
that idea, because that's been a big discussion in this lecture series. Aliya, what about you with the things
Yeah.
that you have cherished and found in this retelling?
Oh, well, first of all, just from like a situational standpoint, we played it together in private, so we didn't actually stream most of our gameplay. We sort of enjoyed it with each other, which was very special. And what Philip said definitely like resonated with me for sure. And it's how he felt when he was a kid versus now. It's like when when you watch a kid's movie that you've watched when you were a kid, and you're like, I see what they're saying now in a different light. Like, or if you're a parent, which we are not yet, but like if you're a parent, I can imagine watching something like Finding Nemo hits you a lot differently than when you were a kid, and you're like, oh man, I hope Nemo gets out of this situation. When you're a parent, I'm sure that's like completely devastating to see a child separated from their parent, and it's completely different lenses that you can look into, but it's the same story. So I feel like that's probably a little bit of what you're experiencing too. And I was lucky enough to experience the OG Final Fantasy with Philip as well. And how I internalized Rebirth and the original Final Fantasy and Cloud, it's like his power, which is actively being suppressed, is his care for his loved ones and the promises that he makes. And I think he's a lover boy. You know what I mean? I think he's a sweetie pie whose power is really about his care and his protection over his loved ones, which is, I think, why I think in the beginning of, or I guess at the end of Final Fantasy original, we see a flashback with him and Sephiroth and how he sort of overpowered Sephiroth.
Yeah.
3 Genova cells, Cloud. Overpower Sephiroth.
And like making his promise to Tifa to come rescue her. And I think Promises to Keep is a pretty fitting title theme for Rebirth, because I think what I hope is to see Cloud at his full power, which is a friend and someone who deeply cares about who he loves. Which we're seeing his enemies trying to keep that away from him. They're trying to mess with his care for his loved ones, because I think deep down they know that is his power, and that's how he can really unlock the next level. But
what a great way of saying that, Aliya. Oh my gosh, I just like that really does something in me, because you said that his strength doesn't necessarily come from his Genova cells. I think Philip, you jumped in there too, but it doesn't come from that, but it comes from not even his friends, but his love and his bond with his friends. And I think that is a really potent thing to think about when you're playing Rebirth. Rebirth has been knocked for having this quote unquote bloat of mini games and side quests and all this kind of stuff. But when you think of Rebirth as this necessary binding of the player and Cloud to the rest of the community, to the locales and the other party members, well, it's building up his strength. It's a necessary piece in this 3-act play, right? I think that's a really insightful thing. So, really cool. I'd not quite thought of it that way. Thank you, Aliya. That's
no
good.
problem.
Yeah.
I have a question about how you guys process these games together when you play them together. Your content does a great job of leaving space when things happen to process. You aren't quick to fill the space with the things that you make. You like to leave time for the viewer or the participant to process. And I've really appreciated that in looking over and learning more about your content, getting ready for the interview. When you're playing it together, tell me about these big moments that happen. Are you immediately talking about it? Are you just shocked and experiencing it together? What is it like to play that together? And how does that impact kind of the journey and the experience that you have with the game?
Oh, we love. I mean, we were just talking about, we were playing Dragon Quest last night. We're just talking about the music and how rich it is and like how this makes me feel. The shallow depth of field in the background and like what a great choice that was. And for remake and rebirth, I mean, we've streamed it together multiple times. We've done our analysis multiple times. Like it's such a meaningful experience for us to view it together, and we're constantly whether it's on stream or privately, I mean, we're pausing it and discussing after a scene's done. It's like, oh, this is one of the reasons.
So you do
I
pause
personally
it,
wasn't
and you're
like,
like,
what's the deal with the people didn't like the post Dine boss fight? Because I mean, we talked for like probably 40 minutes before we walked over there and fought Palmer on the tank thing. So we were just like, that was one of the best scenes I've ever seen. Yeah, let's talk about it. And and having shown Aliya, and this is why I know it's good. And pretty much everybody who has like a kind of negative take on Rebirth, outside of just kind of like vague, this game isn't for me stuff, is usually fans of the OG who are way too nostalgic and way too married to the exact depiction of the scene. For example, like the Dine scene and Dine's depiction is better. Period. Like there's no question about it. If you really analyze why that is, and like him as a character, he's a cardboard, cartoony lunatic. I'll even destroy my own daughter. Like what? Like this mustache twirling, bad guy. Right. And the new one, it's a meaningful, like painful, tender, the pain of having to see your friend like this, and emphasizing the brain damage from falling down that pit, the scars on his head, and like just it is a brutal, and I think a lot more meaningful thing. The music, so many things about it that we talked about. The symbolism Aliya caught when they walk outside, and they're a mirror image of the life that Barrett would have had when you see them walking hand in hand to the light, the gun arm on each end. This is what Barrett would have been. You pointed that out.
Yeah, well, they face each other in one scene, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. And it is like how it would look to look in a mirror, which just totally, that broke me down. Because that is who Barrett could have been if, and I think Marlene is the
only glue
centerpiece
holding them together.
Glue. Like if he didn't find Marlene,
he would have been dying.
That he is dying. And I think Marlene is just holding them together in that way, which is tragic. But
and the irony, right? Like he saved, thinking Dine is dead, picks up his daughter. It's the only meaning keeping him going at all. Barrett's lost everything. It's his fault. Right? Yeah. He said, let's work with Shinner. Come on, baby, let's do it. The only thing keeping me alive is Marlene. And that very act of taking Marlene is what destroyed Dine. He was alive. It's like just this kind of, it's such a beautiful, and like even I said, this is why I love filmmaking so much. And this is why a lot of people are just blind to this stuff. I encourage everybody to pay attention and appreciate the shots, and what every shot in a cinematic format is informing you. Right. Yeah. And there's the original Dine, and then he falls in the pit. Like, but there's no information there. It's just a shot from above of Lego people. And then he falls in. Like, what about the shot where they walk outside the door and you see that mirror image? How does that make you feel? Two men who are kind of like mirrors who have lost the opposite arm, and gone down different paths and everything. Like, what does that say? How does it make you feel? And there's just so much in there. And then you have Hamauzu's new tracks that he composed for all that. This whole suite that takes place from the boss fight, the pre and the post Dine scenes, and it's just, and the new lines that Barrett says, and how that changes from this kind of like very morose tragedy in the original, where he's kind of like, all right, we ain't gonna talk about that, to no, we're gonna explore that, and how does Barrett feel after the fact, and then having to carry that weight, and it's just such a beautifully done thing, regardless of pace after it.
What's an incredible moment, I think, and we kind of did this on one of my streams, the lecture play, where we kind of analyzed it. You're exactly right about the original rendition of Dine, right? Because we play that in 1997 and today for that matter, and it's like, Dine, what a tragic story, and he feels hopeless, takes his own life, and that's really sad. But here we get this fleshed out form of it, and it's like you can peek around the place where he's just been hiding out and stuff, and you see evidence of substance abuse, you see syringes, you see empty bottles, and every way that he's tried to medicate himself in that, and he is in a prison of his own. And I think one of the most potent songs, you mentioned the soundtrack, is one of the themes that underlays that sequence, where it's the title is "What Hate Does to a Man," and when you go in saying, "Okay, what has hate done to Dine, and how did Barrett escape that?" But the thing that you just pointed out
Mm,
was these are mirror images of what
mm,
could happen to a person. Like, but
mm,
Marlene was the
mm,
catalyst, and Barrett kind of,
mm,
in some ways, not maybe not intentionally, took that from Dine. That
mm.
offers so much more impact to when Dine falls on him and says, "You have to live with that weight," because it's like
Yeah,
that
he.
could have been me, and
Yep.
like this was my best friend, and I inadvertently did this to him. what a
Mm,
Right.
what a stunner sort of thing. You can't even process that in the moment.
No,
um
no. And that's what I mean. In the original, you see just like a cartoony
yeah,
guy, like a Lego, and it's like, oh, that's
yeah,
crazy. He went through that. But in the new one, it's
it's so
like you
sad.
hear a man, and it's like, oh yeah, but he's crazy, and he actually shot some people. It's like this is a man who's
Yeah,
completely, like you said, substance abuse, lost his mind. Why? Because he took his daughter, and he lost everything. And like it's a horrible story. And
I mean, and he
there's no
also
like,
fell down. Yeah.
yeah, and he fell down a hole and has brain damage. No doubt, the
yeah.
way he's acting, and it's
Oh,
like
so
this
sad.
is a horrific. Like there's no like black and white. Oh, he's a bad guy. Good that he's gone. No, you feel terrible.
No,
Yeah,
no, and that's what we see in the game time and time again.
yeah,
There is suffering in the world, and how are people, societies, and individuals mitigating that suffering?
Mm,
yep.
And everybody's trying to do their very best to kind of get past the suffering that Shinra has wrought, Genova, Sephiroth, whoever it is.
mm,
Hmm.
Um, and Barrett is finding my way may not be perfect, but I'm with people that I love,
Yep.
and
mm.
there's something worth fighting for. What a beautiful sentiment there.
Oh
Also,
yeah.
I've got to ask you, did you
Totally.
ever go back to Dine's grave? Did
I
you
don't
go
think we
back?
did. I don't think we
So
did.
okay,
No.
listen, load up a playthrough, and this is for the
Yeah.
chat as
Awesome.
well. Like, go back and just notice when you walk in, whether he's in your party or not, Barrett will slow walk to the grave and kind of look down, and there's a picture of Marlene that's hung around this. It's his gun arm, Don's gun arm, that's
Mm.
just staked in the ground.
Wow.
That's our processing moment
I
that
can.
Palmer stole from us, and it is
Yeah.
beautiful. You can spend as much time as you want there. And so
That's
it
awesome.
gives the player that reaction. So anyway, just a
I
little
love
Easter
that.
egg.
Yeah.
Let me emotionally prepare
No,
myself.
for real,
Yeah.
you will. You'll need
Oh
to.
my goodness.
Well, Aliya, I know you only have a few more minutes with us, and so
Oh my God. Time flies.
I know it does. It
I'm
does.
glad,
So
you
I
know.
wanted to give you an opportunity if there were some things
Yeah.
that maybe stuck out for you or some impressions that you had that you would want to leave with folks. And then also, we want to get a little bit of information on what you're up to next and what people could be looking forward to for you personally for your content. You could leave a post-it note with Phil and he can fill us in at the end too. But
Well, why don't you talk about kind of your ending, not even theories
Yeah.
very much, just kind of what do you think of the game and where it's going and everything. That's a great way for you to. People love stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, I think of the feeling I had ending it was, I think, pretty not validating at all.
Yeah.
How am I going to say this? Well, I think that the team, the Square Enix team,
Mm.
really
Mhm.
understands us as gamers and
Mhm.
as just people. And I think what I really loved and what really struck me as someone who who played the ending of the game, uh, we are reflected in Cloud. I think
Yes.
very deeply at the end of the game, we see the tragedy of Aerith, and I think what you told me when you played Final Fantasy OG as a kid, and a lot of other kids also felt, was denial. This can't
Mm.
be real. I'm seeing things that are not real. This is not happening. What do you mean? Like, that's Aerith. Like,
Or
she's,
they're gonna heal her. She's gonna come back.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's gonna come back.
Denial.
Denial, which I think they did so beautifully, reflecting that in Cloud, because I think what they did, which I think was really genius, was really make us feel like completely in denial. What's going on? No,
Yeah.
she's alive. This is it's a confusion. This can't be happening, which I think they did an excellent job reflecting, because
Yeah.
I think that is essentially a pretty universal emotion for witnessing that scene for the first time. And it really helps us empathize with Cloud again. And like I said before, I think Cloud's hidden power, is his deep care for his friends. And so seeing that, it's like, oh, I couldn't save her. This isn't real. Like I've got to be dreaming this. And I thought that was super tragic, but also really well done, just from an artistic lens and a human lens. I thought that was really well done. But yeah, I would love to see more.
Where do you want part 3 to go?
Yeah, that's what we need.
Yeah, that's
There's so much to talk about. Well, I need to leave a post-it note because we got to talk about.
Well, I'm gonna definitely. I will credit you where it's due because I'll continue the conversation, and we've talked a lot about this. But yeah, feel free to just
I don't want to end on a random note, but I did think about one thing that isn't really that important. But I really love also that Rebirth set us up for the third game, in ways that weren't set up in the original. So like, okay, in OG, we see Tifa being inadvertently saved by a weapon.
Yep.
Right. The scene where she's, I think, swallowed by a weapon doesn't.
Yeah, she pointed this out. I don't know if anyone's ever talked about this besides Aliya. When she's in the gas chamber, Scarlet puts her in there. A weapon saves her. Right, it blasts the hole in the wall.
Oh, that is an interesting parallel.
And
like subversion,
a weapon saves her in Rebirth.
In Rebirth,
yeah.
Whoa.
What I wonder if there's going to be something.
There might be a connection there. Maybe the young weapon will talk to its dad or something.
Oh, it knows Tifa. It recognizes her.
Oh, that's
exactly.
good.
Yeah, maybe it'll have communication. Who knows? It's really interesting. Yeah.
Those are the little things that I trust Square Enix with that they added to enhance the
attention
story
to detail
for the third game. So I'm like, I have a lot of faith in what they're doing and how they'll treat it. But yeah, I love that. That was really cool.
Oh yeah, there's so much.
That's great. Well,
amazing.
In our last few moments together, we'll get all your social handles and everything. We'll delegate that to Phil. But what do you have upcoming that you're excited about or looking forward to that you would want to tell people about?
I'm excited for this coming out for sure. Very happy to be here. Thank you again for having us. We really appreciated the questions that you asked. Those are very, I think, well thought out and really unique. I freaking love everything you asked. What else do I have? I'm like blanking. Anyway, I have what am I having? What
you got a lot going on, but I'm not gonna.
I'm blanking out.
You got your stream coming up. You got State of Slay.
I got State of Slay. I have a stream coming up. I'm really bad at self-promotion, but I have more cosplays coming up. I don't know.
You've got cosplays,
more Final Fantasy cosplays hopefully coming up, and I'm excited to share it with the world and excited to maybe do more of this stuff because I think there's a lot to talk about, and like we said before, everything's connected in a way. So to speak to y'all who are masters in your own fields, bringing your knowledge to Final Fantasy, I think is super valuable, and keeping that curiosity and creativity alive, because I do think that the world and especially the next generations could really use something like this, games that they love, to encourage them to explore their own world and be curious about things around them, the arts, the sciences, whatever they're interested in. I think what you're doing is an excellent bridge between video games and just the world. I don't know. But thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
It's really kind.
Absolutely amazing. Be well in your appointments and your streams and endeavors, and we will talk soon.
Okay, we have now transitioned with Aliya off to her next thing, and Phil has now replaced her or supplemented his experience with the sword. He is meditating. I have a comment, Phil, of all the kind words that you two spoke to each other and all the compliments you paid to each other, there's really only one that I think you had a bit of pause and almost were a little bashful, if I can be maybe a little overly direct about it. When she said that she thought that you could beat Sephiroth, you got a little choked up.
I think I did. Yeah.
You were
I think I did. It's very beautiful to hear.
You really think that I could beat Sephiroth? That's like the ultimate compliment.
It is, I think. Yeah. As a martial artist, as a Final Fantasy fan, it's the best. Yeah.
And with the Buster sword on your shoulder, you are looking the part.
Thank
Let
you.
me say, like you could take him on right now. Show off that sword for a second. Tell us about it. How did you get it? What is this?
This is actually, well, Aliya cosplayed Cloud, if you didn't know. So we have
I
this.
don't think I've seen that one.
The
Yeah,
rat
we have this
focus on the
sword.
camera is amazing.
D-
And it's so
That
cool.
is
So of course I'm gonna show it
beautiful.
off.
That's stunning.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's awesome. If you haven't seen her Cloud cosplay, you should check
I'm
it
gonna have
out.
to go look that one up. I
Yeah.
mean, I've seen y'all's Tifa and Barrett, and that is like my
That's our OG
favorite of
one, yeah.
all of your cosplays.
Listen,
But
listen, I got to give credit where it's due. Aliya is a genius with these things. She was like, you should cosplay Tifa, and I'm like, it's like a meme, kind of like, wear
Yeah.
the skirt and stuff. She's like, no. She's an amazing
Just you
artist. I
wait.
didn't know this. She drew and sketched a design. She's like, no, Tifa was masculine, not, oh, I'm gonna have Philip wear a skirt and be like barmaid, kind of like belly hanging on. No. What if like Tifa was a cool kind of masculine martial artist? And that's why that was the kicker. And she did the same thing for Barrett. What if Barrett was just feminine? Right? Not, let's
Y'all
do a meme.
crushed it. One of my favorite things
All
y'all
right,
ever
I'll
did.
have to make a
And
note
we
to
didn't even know
forget
people
to
were
put
gonna
that picture in.
like recognize it. We were kind of like, is this gonna work? We go to I think it was Comic-Con. We go to Comic-Con and like everybody was, this is the coolest thing ever. Never seen anything like it. So
Absolutely.
with that one. Yeah.
Just amazing. So, kind of getting back into some Rebirth stuff, we talked a little bit about Aliya's thoughts on the ending and where part 3 might go, all this kind of stuff. What about you? Where is your head at months after you finished Rebirth? What still
Man.
excites you when you think about it? Go for it.
Listen. If you didn't know, we had the privilege of going to Tribeca Film Festival, which is Robert De Niro's film festival. And guess what was featured there?
I saw
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Had a presentation there where they talked about the art. It featured Hamaguchi, Kitase-san, who didn't know was the director of the original FF7, 8, 10, 6. Like, talk about a pedigree. Like, what in the world?
Yeah.
And Hamaguchi, this like up and coming awesome person who's director of Rebirth and of course worked on 13. But this has become my kind of like checkmate when people kind of get a little negative about Rebirth or like, the changes at the end. I wanted my exact story that they told.
Yeah.
I want these artists to tell the exact story they told 20 years ago and make no changes. Listen, I'll take the game that was featured. I'll take the art piece that was featured at the film festival.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know any video games that have ever been featured at a film festival. Period. So I'll take that art piece as opposed to the very bashful or kind of like for lack of a better word, cowardly, no risk taking retelling of the original. Gotta make sure the fans are happy. No. I want them to say something. I want the ending to be incredibly thought provoking, which it was. For everybody who did it. A lot of people just don't like thought provoking stuff and want it to be very, easy to understand and easy to digest and not.
As an educator, I understand that.
Yes, they want it. Yeah, exactly. Right. They don't want to have to digest it. They want to just. No. They don't want to sit with it and think about how it makes them feel and explore what the art is saying. They just want to say, yeah, I know, I've seen the scene. Just make it look better. Like when Sephiroth comes down, bada bing, bada boom, and then it's over. So yeah, that's kind of my final stance on the ending. I'll get to my thoughts in a second of why I think Final Fantasy is still like one of the greatest kind of like celebration of art and pushing story. And this is why I love Nomura. I love Kitase, Hamaguchi, and all the work that they've done with the whole Final Fantasy franchise. So
maybe real quick,
I'll take the game that was at the film festival. I'll take that choice as opposed to the one that's just like, it's just good graphics version of the original.
Yeah, well, that would be a remaster, right? Like, I mean, exactly. we have a term for updating the visuals on a game and not changing anything about it. It's called a remaster. Yeah. Like it's called a remake for a reason. I wonder real quick if you could kind of give another through line from kind of your critical perspective, where you implied in your statement earlier that people who just really wanted a rehashing of the same thing and maybe really just wanted a remaster, not a remake, were unsatisfied because it was a thought-provoking ending. What do you think the folks who did understand that it had something to say and maybe really experienced it and they gave it a lot of thought, right? But they still didn't really love where we ended up. Maybe tell us a little bit about your perspective on how somebody could arrive at that lens? Because obviously, if you just wanted a remaster, you're going to be disappointed that something's different. But then I think
Right.
there's people who had some challenges with the way that the story was told, even though it was thought-provoking. What are some of those other through lines, rather than just somebody, the only reason you wouldn't like it is because it's not a remaster, which isn't what you said, right? But that's kind of the general fan perspective.
Absolutely.
So speak to the other side of it a little bit for people who understood it, just disliked it.
So for me, I think it's the format change to a trilogy, right?
Okay.
And when you look at it, like I said this with Remake, and people said I was crazy, where I was like, you can't, make Sephiroth a pretty much non-existent entity as the villain of a trilogy, because everybody's like, you got the calm flashback. It's going, but that's in the second game now because it's a trilogy, right? So you can't have like a Sephiroth to be completely faithful to the original. He's in the background, he does nothing. And then in the second one, it's like, oh, this is the villain of the whole trilogy. Yeah, but he doesn't even exist in the first one.
Yeah.
So they built it up. They changed the format. Let's see. Let's build him up a little bit. Let's have him kind of be in the background. You start to feel the impending threat of him more than just like a rumor here and there, like the original at that point. So I think it's the same thing with this. Because it's a trilogy, I would encourage those who are kind of like, what was that ending? Oh my goodness, I wanted the emotional scene. You're going to get it. It's going to be, when Cloud finally realizes what happened. And because it's a trilogy, you need that kind of Empire Strikes Back ending, right? For it to be a really powerful then victory at the end. And I think because it's just a symptom of the format, right? You could have easily just done it and then it ends. But the questions wouldn't have been there to set up for the trilogy and the mystery as much. And those of us who pretty much everybody knows that story beat now, what happens to Aerith with Sephiroth, like it's not as powerful as an ending for those reasons. So I think I would just encourage people to look forward to the third one. It's not like, if this was one game, I think it'd be a lot more valid to be like, why did they do it like this? Right. But I still think it was a great scene and I can break down why. But yeah, I would just encourage people to, look at the format difference, look at Remake. And there was a very large percentage of people who at the end of Remake who were kind of like had a negative reaction. We're like, oh, the second game is going to be completely off the rails. We'll have none of the old scenes, none of the old locations. If they do, it'll be just totally new story, totally new, like kind of fan fiction as the term they used. And I was like, it's going to be the same. We're going to go to all the same places. What are we talking about? And of course, that's what they did. That's what the devs said. So I would say just have faith in the vision too. If the original is one of your favorite games, this is the same artists. So just kind of trust in their vision. They want to say something a little bit more with it. Also, it doesn't disqualify the original. Your favorite art piece is still there, untouched and preserved. So I would say enjoy the original and kind of with that feeling of gratitude that we talked about earlier, kind of take this as in my book, I'm just like, we're getting new Final Fantasy VII in 2024, and I get to see these scenes. Like one of the reasons I got into filmmaking is you're imagining these scenes from this kind of like theater top-down view. You see Cloud and the guys as Lego people, essentially, or whatever you want to call them. You picture those scenes. You can picture how they would look and act as humans with facial expressions. To finally see that and see the choices that the director made. Just, okay, let's have the camera here. Let's have this scene. Let's have that. It's a dream come true for me. You know what I mean? So like I'm along for the ride of my favorite artists, right? It'd be like if Tolkien somehow came back to life and wrote a new Lord of the Rings book and it was quite different. I'm not going to be like, Tolkien doesn't know his own stuff. Like, of course he does. It's Tolkien. Are we really going to question that?
Yeah,
we would.
That's kind of where my head's at with it. I have full faith in the artist and I'm just grateful we're getting it. And I think it's fantastic. Like I could talk all day and I have on my channels about the level of art that's unfolding before us. So yeah, don't let nostalgia hold you back from enjoying it is what I would say to those people. But listen, I'm not saying it disqualifies your criticisms either.
Yeah.
I'm just saying why I think it's really special. And Final Fantasy has always been the sort of thought-provoking, genre-pushing stuff. I love what they did with Rebirth for that reason. They didn't take the safe route. It's like, no, we really want to say something powerful here. We want to push the envelope of what we can achieve with a game format, mixing gameplay with visuals, with cinematics. So that's where I'm at as someone who loves filmmaking and who makes film. Let's have the one that gets in the film festival for being so thought-provoking, not the one that's just a safe retelling,
You've mentioned on your stream several times so many different details. I think that the first time that I really noticed, oh my gosh, he's really going into some granular stuff, is the lengthening of Sephiroth's shadow in the candlelight during the flashback, and
Oh
where
yeah.
you were talking about how this is a classic sort of menacing trope, and you see this expansion of Sephiroth's character. That's such a unique lens that only a filmmaker could really bring to this. Because
Thank
like
you,
I
man.
see that and I'm like, ooh, ominous. You're like, no, 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 this is rooted, people.
Oh yeah, to
And
me, this was it's symbolizing and sort of demarcating he's taking on a new identity. Right? Like his
yes,
shadow is changed shape in that moment, and this is the moment where Genova takes over him. And it's like this is something that we had to guess back in the day, and this debate went on forever.
right,
Who was in control during this? Well, now we know, of course,
right.
that Genova takes control at that moment. And if you look at Ever Crisis, she's been slowly doing that and
Seeping
slowly kind
in,
of
yeah.
burrowing into him for this moment. And then later, when Sephiroth steals the power of the ancients from the live stream and has Genoa's power, he takes over her. Right, and that's he's kind of piloting her powers, which is a very scary thing. Sorry.
Now, I
About
want you to say that
yeah.
again for our viewers, because that's a common misconception, right? So,
Yep.
talk to us about the moment where Sephiroth takes over Genova. This may be new for a lot of our viewers.
Right. So this is getting to super like esoteric FF7 lore and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think this is why a lot of people are also having trouble with Rebirth is it's finally explaining everything. And it has to be quite long to do that. Whereas
It
the
does.
original is incredibly vague to the point where I joke about this a lot. Had you ever try explaining the plot of FF7 to someone as a kid? Absolutely
is
impossible. Makes no sense.
disaster.
It's so
Yeah.
abstract. By the way, puts Kingdom Hearts to shame. Kingdom Hearts is a super simple
It
story.
does.
Super simple story. FF7 is the most like abstract. It's also the beginning and the apex of like the Nomorian, kind of like really cool abstract stories and ideas, which I love, and everybody loves this. So then why is it weird when Kingdom Hearts does similar things, right? But yeah, so what happens is Sephiroth gets taken over by Genova because he has his cells in when he was a fetus were injected into him. So he has like the most rich, pure part of Genova in him versus Cloud, who has just like a few Genova cells injected into him, right? So he's kind of like grown as an entity of Genova, and would consider himself her son for that reason, and also having to do with his delusion and confusion over his real mother and everything, or his sort of like what do you want to call it? The scientific version of a mother, or whatever you want to call it. So anyway, Cloud kills him, as Aliya mentioned, throws him into the live stream. He is dead. Sephiroth dies then. But what happens is, and this is why I think Rebirth is so genius, we actually have a hand in this happening now. And we see it happening. It's not just like, by the way, we played it recently, the original. None of this is mentioned. This was like the fans piecing it together for 20 years, figuring out this stuff.
Yeah.
He falls into the live stream. His will is so strong, he will not dissolve into the live stream, which, as you know, the wills of everyone becomes this ever circling stream through the planet and just becomes the energy that makes new life. He won't dissolve. He's too powerful because he has this like outside entity, Genova, inside of this alien force. And he's also just like the strongest person ever, Sephiroth. So what happens is his will won't dissolve. He literally steals the knowledge of the ancients, which is kind of Aerith's wheelhouse, steals the life stream powers for himself. And with that power takes control of his identity again, which if you see in Nibelheim, he's like a robot. He just walks around, walks forward, slowly turns to Cloud. He doesn't really have a grasp of himself anymore, kind of smiles at Cloud, someone who he knows, and turns around. Unsettling and sad, like, which in the original, it's just, we don't have any of that information. So anyway, he takes back his identity as like Sephiroth, who now has control of these powers, and he reconstructs his body, which you will see in the original game. We'll see in part 3 in this crystal. But you'll notice it's like half of his body is reconstructed. And this is why I thought Rebirth is so genius. Finally made me realize Bizarro Sephiroth is Sephiroth's real body. He has no legs. You see his torso up is in the crystal, and then that's what you fight at the end of the game. So everything you see is an illusion that Sephiroth is sending when Sephiroth's walking around. And you'll see like when Sephiroth explains the worlds to Cloud, this is the nature of reality and stuff. Cloud slices him. It's just whispers, like there's nothing there.
Right.
And his true body is what he fights as Bizarro Sephiroth. And then, whatever else he'll remake by the end. But he kind of sends out this avatar of his old self to walk around and like, hound Cloud and annoy him and deceive him and everything. But anyway, that's the basics of what happened. He takes back his sort of ownership of the powers as he is now walking around with like extreme, lucidity. And this has to do with the meditation stuff we talked about earlier, if you want me to save that for later or segue into it. But I think it's really cool that we talk about in the Buddhist meditation, mindfulness being present. The absence of suffering is the absence of caring too much about everything in the material
Attachment,
world. Right. And non-attachment. Sephiroth is the ultimate example of non-attachment. He literally essentially sacrifices his self to be just this blank slate, almost inhuman person. He's emotionless as he talks to Cloud. You know, you want to get stronger through suffering. That's what you wanted. But he is not suffering. Sephiroth is just completely like he reached the apex of his suffering in Nibelheim when he was struggling in the library. And then we had that identity shadow grow out of him, you know? So I think it's an interesting idea, isn't it? That Sephiroth is like this meditative perfection. Like it's just nothingness. It's just, he's present. He's peaceful, and it's terrifying for that reason. Or because all the characters are like us. They're suffering in the material world and dealing with all their problems. And he's just like completely calm.
And this is such a great dichotomy with, say, Aerith, who cares deeply, has formed these attachments. And I think that potent scene in the Temple of the Ancients around the trials where she says, all of these things that have happened to us, yes, there's no changing that past. But in this moment, the love that we have, the life that we share, all of these things are worth fighting for. So attachment isn't severing the attachment isn't the solution here. And so that's so interesting from what Sephiroth is saying, like sever every attachment. None of this can phase you. We will remake the world through absolute nothingness of attachment. Whereas Aerith is like, no, it's all about connection and bonds. And then I love that Sephiroth is like, well, we'll see. And so it takes away the bond that Cloud has with Aerith, creating even more suffering. Like, is that working for you, Cloud? And what a thing for part 3 that will be.
Oh, man, I can't wait. It's going to be so good. Yeah. And like I said, I mean, the ending is just, it's incredible, man. I can talk about it.
I love the ending. And I'm excited to play through it again on the lecture series. You mentioned something earlier, and as a host, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about it because I've got to speak for the viewers. Okay, you and I agree on something. All right, I think we agree. A lot of talk has been: is this a sequel? Is this a continuation of the Final Fantasy VII story? Is this a true reimagining? Now, you mentioned that the developers have said we're telling the same story. Like we're giving a lot of, and I think that you and I are of that mindset that it's going to go the same way. This is not necessarily a sequel, except in the idea of like a live stream that is just ever flowing and cyclical.
Yeah, and I think it's. I'm sorry. Yeah, continue.
So with that, thinking that it is more of a reimagining than a sequel.
I like to use the word revision. Yeah.
Revision. Okay, I like that.
That could be the title for the third game.
When an author does many revisions to improve their story, right? As they go through the work until the final revision, like first revision, okay, we got to tighten that up and everything. So it's really a revision 20 years later, the same story, but it's improved. Yeah.
If it is the same story, how do you count or account for the things that don't jive with the original, like the whispers? How do you explain those? Now, I did a whole video on this, but imagine people haven't seen that. How would you explain things like the whispers and some of those things that just are not in the original?
I would say it's the same thing, right? It's an expansion of the same story. So the whispers, like Sephiroth has several lines where he's talking about like, soon I will control the future. And I was like, what does it mean by that in the original? And we know that the whispers, I think they said, are an idea from the original that they didn't really have a way to do. So they held back. Now here it is. Yeah. So the whispers, you have to ask yourself, it's like, oh, this new thing, it changed everything. And it's like, what did it really change? Right. So the whispers also have been called and are pretty much the cries of the planet. Right. As they say, like when at the end of Remake on the highway and you can hear them screaming and everything. Yeah. It's the cries of the planet. It's the cries of the people who in the live stream aren't dissipating because it's like Sephiroth's black live stream, corrupted live stream, as we see him in Rebirth underwater with Tifa. And he's like this like corrupted swirling whispers that he's controlling versus Aerith's, kind of like Ancient's power, white whispers. So to me, it's just a personification of the chess pieces, Aerith versus Sephiroth, the Ancients versus Genova, right? And does it change the story as a whole? No. It's like including Deep Ground from Dirge of Cerberus. It's like, oh, that wasn't the original that changed the story. It's like, oh, they didn't really change it. I mean, it works really well with the lore. They're expanding the lore. So I think it's really what it is. The Whispers are a great lore expansion to personify Sephiroth's powers, as opposed to us having to go read forums for 10 hours as a kid to figure out what the heck happened to Sephiroth's body when we were a kid. Like, wait, so Cloud killed him and now he's just there, right? It's none of it's mentioned. Zip, So it's like the black materia. Now we have an amazing lore about why that makes sense. Like the Gi tribe, it was their way to delete their consciousness because they're forever forced to exist. Like, wow, what a cool idea. Makes complete sense versus like, it's just like really powerful thing that exists. Like, well, why would they make a materia that destroys the earth? Doesn't make any sense, right? So now it makes sense.
That's why.
And it's just a lore expansion, right? Same thing with the Whispers. And, a lot of people, again, opinions are fine to have like, oh, I didn't think such and such scene was as effective if you just like remove the Whispers and stuff, which I think they were much more effective in Rebirth personally than the first one. But I had no problem with the remake. I thought they were really cool. I thought it was really thought provoking to be like, okay, this is clearly like fate. What's going on here? Is this the live stream kind of like dictating what is supposed to happen or protecting our heroes because we need them to stop Sephiroth? It's very thought provoking. So I don't think it changes anything of the original premise or the original themes personally, but a lot of people will argue that with me.
They will fight it. So
yeah.
Something you mentioned earlier. You casually mentioned something about, quote, what Rebirth is trying to say. What do you think that Rebirth, and therefore the devs behind it, Hamaguchi and Kitase-san, what are they trying to say to us as viewers, as people living in today's world through the story of this game?
So the ending, Aliya touched on it beautifully, right? We've shared our thoughts on that. The idea of the original simply showing a scene with very rudimentary storytelling tools, no acting, no performance, no shot selection, just top-down view, loss. And now we have in Rebirth, same theme, the same idea, loss, and sort of a multi-layered, multifaceted exploration of what we felt as kids. It hit me the moment I got to the end. You can see my ending playthrough. The moment that you're in shock, what's happening, and then you realize, wait, Cloud's saying the speech. He's like glitching out, and his mind is racing as it's happening. Don't hear it, don't hear it, don't hear it. It's not real. And then Aerith's theme hits.
Yeah.
And it brings you back to the moment you felt that, that hammer hit you as a kid and being like, the emotion comes back. And I started tearing up. This is what I felt as a kid. They did it. And again, it's very hard to like want to see your favorite scene. I get it completely. And then it's a little bit different, even though it's the same scene. They changed perspective and stuff. But it's unreliable narrator. It's Cloud. Instead of just saying loss, very difficult. It's like, no, we're going to explore loss on a deeper level of denial and putting us in the character's perspective so deeply. And again, expanding the lore on Sephiroth's skills, on Genova's illusions, on Cloud's psyche, right? It's all the same things that exist. Cloud was losing his mind when Aerith died in the original. Literally almost kills her himself, just like in Rebirth. Yeah. Are we supposed to think that he's just... Anyway, back to normal. Let's have a very profound speech. By the way, when his close friend is just murdered in front of, let's be normal now and not be kind of like on the edge of insanity. It doesn't make any sense, right? So no, let's explore this. Let's show Tifa's perspective with a very quick camera switch to show. Oh no, she's not doing this to comfort Cloud. It's Cloud holding her bloodied hand.
Yeah, right. What a scene.
And you see what I mean? That's the attention to detail. If you're just consuming and not engaging with the art fully, you won't catch that, right? Just, what's going on? Some glitches, whatever. No, it's Tifa's perspective. That's what's actually happening, right? So there's so many, like in a shot, there's probably hundreds of shots in this ending sequence from a film perspective. To have every single one like microscopically considered and storyboarded to perfection by Nomura and the team is just, you don't see stuff like this, especially in video games, unless we're talking about like Kojima or some other just like, quintessential level artists in the filmmaking industry or in the gaming and film industry. You just don't see that. So again, that's what I would encourage people. If you're having trouble with it, watch it again. Really try to watch my ending breakdown, watch Professor Noctis's breakdowns, really try to engage with the art and consider how it makes you feel, and then consider that this is not the end. There's a whole game coming where they're going to get that payoff of Aerith's passing and how it makes Cloud feel and everything else. And I think it's just it's in a deep, to come back to your question, deep exploration of loss, and on many levels, loss of the planet, loss of nature, that mindfulness that we talked about, that extends to being mindful of the planet. It extends to being mindful of relationships. Also, I think the deepest theme of FF7 is identity, for sure. Right? Cloud, identity. Right? Everything about him has to do with this, thinking he's someone else. The identity of, I want to be hero, but I'm not. So I'm going to pretend I am. There's a magic system involved there too. Genova imprinting Zack's memories onto him. It's not just him. Sephiroth, identity. Right? It's almost the mirror image of Cloud. Learning his real identity and losing his mind because he realizes he's not even a human. He's a monster that was created to, destroy this, and then just like a super soldier with no humanity. He was lied to his entire life. It's terrible. So this idea of identity extends to so many characters that we could talk about. Tifa as well. Tifa talks about it a lot in Rebirth. Like, when you finally get to talking to her in her room, she's like, yeah, that's one of my biggest weaknesses, is wanting to please people and be that person. But yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, everybody's constantly exploring that, Dine and Barrett, right? This mirror image of their identity. There's just so much. So I think that's it. And then obviously the theme of nature, which I think ties to that.
Sure.
And, preserving the planet and sort of like environmentalism for sure with FF7. But yeah, I would say identity and loss are for me like the pinnacle of it, and I think the most profoundly explored. Yeah.
There's so many different avenues that we could go down with all of this. I wonder, though, you mentioned earlier in the interview your time in a Shaolin Temple.
Yeah.
You've talked about your exploration of mindfulness, meditation practices, rituals that have helped you center yourself. How do you see these things represented in Rebirth? And why do you think they would include things like this in a story about loss, identity, all that kind of stuff?
Well, it comes back to the idea we discussed of kind of, the material world and the idea of caring so much about the future and the past and not being present is suffering, right? And the idea of meditation, a lot of people just think of it as sitting down in a certain posture, being quiet, thinking, which is a certain form of meditation. But the other form of meditation is action meditation, is moving, is, like I said, when you walk, when you eat, right? Don't think about everything else you have to do when you're eating. And in the Shaolin Temple, one of the practices we did was mindful eating. There's no speaking when you eat. You sit there. There's no music. There's no, YouTube video up, and I got my Twitter feed going when I'm watching YouTube, and I'm going up and down, whatever, and I'm chatting with my friend while it's all happening, and I'm getting a phone call from my mom, and how you doing? No, it's just you eat. When you eat, you sit there. You can't even speak when you're being served. There's like ways you can communicate with your chopsticks, how much portion you want, and you exist and you eat. And I would say that being one example. It changed my life completely when I came back from the temple. How I ate.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Changed. Yeah. And you appreciate every grain of rice that you eat, and you can taste it and, be mindful and present in the moment as opposed to thinking about 90 other things. And just the idea of, I went to the Shaolin Temple. I was going through a lot in my life, and I was able to pretty much remove all other decision making from my life. Or the biggest decision making I had, which shots am I going to film today for my documentary? Because it's just, you wake up at 6 a.m., you get into line, you train for 3 hours, you go eat quietly. Like I said, after that, you clean the temple, you do your temple duty, you serve food. After that, you train for 3 more hours. So we're at 6 hours of training now. And then you do more temple duty. And then you train for 3 more hours after that and meditate and study some Buddhism if you want, and Chinese. And then you sleep. There's a curfew. There's no on your phone in bed curfew. It's lights out, a sleep curfew. So there was life was so simple, right? Complete removal of all sort of decision making and suffering. to the point where you are just focused on training. And like when you're doing a form for 3 hours and you can't move your legs anymore, but you just keep going anyway, you're focused only on the form and kind of like staying alive, right? And there's a beautiful simplicity to that I will never forget. That's one of the things I've brought home with me. So like I said, the interesting thing about Rebirth is that we kind of have this personified in Sephiroth, like the complete pinnacle of meditation, where there's no more conflict, there's no more anything. It's this godly sort of almost terrifying simplicity, and there's no doubt, there's no question in his sort of resoluteness. And it's interesting to see because, but then you have the flip side, which you touched on, Noctis, where you have Aerith saying like, no, the solution is not to destroy all bonds. Right at the Shaolin Temple, I didn't feel good because I like called my family and said, never talk to me again.
Yeah.
This is a bond of suffering. No. It made me cherish my bonds more. Do you see what I mean? That simplicity. And like I said, with my love with Aliya, it makes me appreciate every moment with her. Right. And like when Aliya is, maybe she's feeling sick or something, or she's feeling under the weather, I don't go, oh God, Aliya's sick, make my day hard. I say, no, perfect. I can take care of her. I'm going to make her a meal. I'm going to bring her a tea. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put a blanket on her. Do you see what I mean? So just, you become grateful as opposed to, I don't know, looking for the negativity and everything.
Gosh, you're absolutely right. And playing through Rebirth and even listening to you now, I'm just reminded again and again, whether it's going to Gongaga and seeing how their kind of isolationist perspective and returning to the land is a mitigation of suffering. But at what cost is there? Because there's always a cost. And so Cosmo Canyon in the same way, this place that's the home of planetology, where they're so close to the planet, and yet they've allowed commercialism to kind of seep in. And how does that
I love that.
kind
So
of
real.
exacerbate? Right? So many lessons in all of that. But what it all strikes me as is that there's always a counter to it. Sephiroth has a point. If you can't be attached to anything, then you can't suffer. But also, you're sacrificing joy. You're sacrificing the heights of that. Whereas, and you know
And
this, and you've
humanity.
spoken it
Completely.
in your humanity. You've spoken this a couple of times in this interview about, your relationship with Aliya and the things that you love in this world, right? There is a potential for suffering by having those bonds,
Of course,
and yet the
that's what makes it
potential for
beautiful.
joy far outweighs that. It's a risk reward thing, but you would get neither of them if you just hold up and said, I'm on my own, right? It's
And
holding
like,
loosely in that
it's
attachment. Go ahead.
It's like this idea of, because we're mortal, that's what makes the connections meaningful, right? And the way I try to view it, we all have our moments, right? Is that like, because it could end literally any second, like I said, Sephiroth could summon meteor, quote unquote, and the earth could go away. You want to end every day being like, I'd be okay if it ended tomorrow. Like, I wouldn't be happy about it. I want more, but like, did I take advantage of today? Did I cherish it? Did I spend my time meaningfully, or was this kind of going through the motions? Was I mean to someone that I shouldn't be? Someone that I should be loving to? Like, ask yourself those questions, and really try to, cherish every moment. Like as Cloud said, cherish everything.
There's not a thing I don't cherish. I mean, we keep coming back to that.
Yeah.
And I just, like, I wonder why. And Evan, like, I know that you have been taking all of this in, right? Listening to these stories. But when I was in 1997 playing Final Fantasy VII, I'm not sure that that moment of, cherish every moment in every relationship in life, I don't think it hit me in the same ways that maybe it does today.
Well, we were
right?
too
Maybe
young,
that's because
we were too
I'm
young,
too young. But today it's like, okay, if there is no tomorrow and I forget about yesterday, am I just grateful and cherishing today? What a powerful lesson for all of us that are always living in either the past or the future.
I mean, look, you should just view it honestly as like, today is an entire life. Then tomorrow's a new one. Like, really, like, am I happy with what I did today? And you'll catch yourself sometimes if you think about it being like, I just scrolled on Twitter for 20 minutes and I feel like only bad. Like, there's no good
only
feeling.
Bad.
I saw a bunch of like really depressing stuff. I don't think it's how I'd want to spend my last day if this is my last day. You know what I mean? So it's I'm not saying to obsess over it or kind of like worry about it constantly that the world might end, but really cherish your life, because we are mortal. There's probably going to be a time, hopefully not, hopefully there won't be a time where you look back and say like, oh, I wish I had done more with my time, or I wish I had said I was sorry to that person, or been more loving to that person, or something. So it's something to think about. But I mean, 7 is so good because it makes you think about those things and your relationships, and the richness of Cloud and Tifa and Barrett and Aerith, and like the scene with Aerith and Cloud in the church, the final, the kind of Aerith's goodbye, which is new, but it's the same scene from the forest, right? This is what I said. Like it's literally the forest scene, which is
heart
like
of it, right?
20 seconds long, and then Sephiroth comes down to the forest and says, "I found you. You thought you could hide here, Aerith? What's that?" Right, so that's what I say to people. Oh, these worlds are new and stuff. No, it's not. Aerith created a dream world where she talked to Cloud and said, like, I got Sephiroth. Don't worry about it. I want you to, you're going to break if you push yourself anymore. Okay. Yeah. Don't do it. And then Sephiroth comes into this dream creation that Aerith made and says like, hi, I found you. That's exactly what happens in Rebirth. It's beautiful. Let's have a date where Aerith is reliving her date with Zack. It's like the saddest, most depressing thing ever that she wished she could have with Cloud, in the midst of which she realizes he's not Zack. And there's liking, and then there's liking. And I love Cloud, but I have to let him go because I have to go save the world, because I'm like this pinnacle character of FF7 and I have the coolest purpose ever. And then she pushes him. MJ Gallagher caught this, by the way, in my talk with him. Cloud falls into the church, onto the bed of flowers when he meets Aerith. He pushes him through the bed of flowers in the sort of rainbow portal, their last goodbye. It's like, wow, oh man, it's such beautiful.
That's good parody there. That's good.
You see what I mean? Like, and this is what I'm talking about, the attention to detail in the filmmaking. People watch this and they just go like, it was different from the original. Why?
That was pretty, or that was different.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why'd they do that? There's more. Oh, appreciate the art. If this was a new thing, it'd be a totally different conversation. It's just they're comparing it so microscopically to this old version. But yeah, I mean, that scene, man, it's so good. And like the intricacies of the relationships between everyone. Cloud and Barrett, more deeply explored. Cloud saying, hey man,
we're here for you.
After dying, we're actually here for you. Massive moment for Cloud, man. That's not Cloud from the first game. A huge character moment.
Leaps and bounds for him. Yeah,
I actually might believe you, man. I actually might believe you for once, you son of a gun. It's like, this is huge stuff. And then Tifa and Cloud's relationship, like the kind of seeing it in human performance has been such a deepening of that bond, right? And just the kind of beautiful humanity of Cloud, Tifa, Aerith, and how those relationships play off of each other. And like to see it come to life is like, oh yeah, this is how humans would actually act in these scenarios, where Cloud is like, and again, this is what I talked about, and I definitely got some heat for this from certain fans, but it's like the beauty of the Aerith Cloud relationship too is that she realizes in the church, but she says like there's liking and there's liking. She doesn't say, I love you, Cloud, is because think about it. Cloud has Zack, her previous boyfriend, her love's memories mixed in and imprinted on him. She is kind of taking advantage of him if she's going to cash in on that or cash grab and get this man for herself. He literally thinks he's Zack because of Genova, right? And the scene where he takes the sword, it's like kind of an icky thing. So again, I'm going to get a lot of, snipes from that, but it's kind of weird. And I think it's kind of her taking advantage if she was to be like, this is a broken man, first of all, who needs, deep healing and therapy and everything, for me to kind of just move in and cash in on Zack 2.0 and that's the beauty. Aerith realizes he's not Cloud yet. That's what she says. Like, I want to meet you, Cloud. I want to meet you.
I want to find you.
Right? But it's not there yet. I wish I could have. And she knows, even in the original, she knows she has to die. Yeah. I wish I could have met him for real because I love him. But yeah, it's not meant to be. It's not going to happen. And that's such a beautiful, tragic thing. And this is why people who see it in black and white they're missing out, man. Like if you say, oh yeah, Cloud loves Tifa or he loves Aerith, or that, they're humans, man. They're humans. And there's a deep, a young man experiencing kind of love for the first time and different people and how it reflects him. And then Tifa, who's always been there for them, and realizing what that means as the story in part 3 goes on, what it means to have someone always have your back and always believe in you and put your mind back together. And then Aerith, who's like this kind of fire that appears in his life and is there and is meaningful. But then, as the story unfolds, you realize, oh no, Zach was her love, and this is what's happening. Like, it becomes very tragic and complicated. And then her calling is, I have to sacrifice myself essentially to best Sephiroth, because he thinks he won by killing me. He actually destroyed himself by killing me. And it's just such beautiful poetry,
You talk a lot about...
throughout,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, throughout both of these games, I just wanted to touch on that really, really quickly, because, Aerith, all she wants from Remake to Rebirth especially, she wants connection. I never grew up with friends like that. I wish that I had something like that.
Tragic,
and so she sees something in Cloud, whether she knows it's Zach or not. She's like, there's something about him that draws me to that. And it's like, there's a lot of reasons why this isn't right and working, but I'm so glad that in Rebirth, she gets that dream sequence of finally saying, I want those bonds more than anything in this world because I've never had it. This isn't it. This isn't who I'm wanting. And she physically pushes him out. And it's so sometimes, and man, just like talk about a personal relationship sort of thing. Like, what about those moments when what we have cherished or thought we cherished isn't what we thought it was? And what do we make? Like you mentioned earlier in the chat that there was a time in your life when you had to push out toxic things to make space to do what you needed to do. And what a powerful moment. Evan, you had a question.
Well, we talk a lot about perspectives in the game. What camera and whose perspective you're viewing a scene from, like with Tifa and Aerith, whose perspective we see the story from impacts what we think about it. You talk about perspectives in life. The perspective that you take through mindfulness can shift how you perceive a similar event in your life. And so these mindfulness practices applied to our lives and applied to shown in media and these stories that we tell have great impact for us. That being said, as we kind of wrap up our discussion, what perspectives and what stories do you think still need to be told to feel like they kind of stick the landing on part 3?
Oh, absolutely. So with the people criticizing the ending with Eric, who wanted to be more faithful to the original, or I guess more exact, I guess it's still faithful, but told in the exact same way, not shifted perspective. They have to do it now, right? They have to cash in on that build up and that suspense. For a new player, it's what's going on? Is she dead? And for us, it's so interesting that it's an expansion of Advent Children, right? Cloud talks to Zach and Aerith in this white void in Advent Children multiple times. We know now that's because he's living in two worlds, man. He entered into that second world in Rebirth when he's talking to Aerith, and then he clasps Aerith's hand at the end when they fight Sephiroth. That's Aerith from the White Void. That's who he's talking to in Advent Children, and he's not able to, sort of be mindful again and be in the present again until the end of Advent Children, when that world closes to him, and Aerith and Zach go away together, right? And they find peace. And it's like, what a beautiful... So now when you watch Advent Children, even now, but after part 3, like it's going to... And I'm pretty sure they're going to... Again, to come back on your question, is it going to be changed? Is it going to be the same? I think they're going to have that happen probably at the end of part 3. And I think they probably should have Zach and Aerith do that. I think that'd be really nice.
So some resolution there would help you feel like they stuck. What other things would help you feel like, okay, we need some resolution on this, or they need to show us this, or they need to make us feel this, or they opened this door. Now it's responsible for them to close it to really get some closure in the story. What are those other things for you that they need to wrap up to really stick the landing?
I think Sephiroth and Genova is another big one. I've talked at many lengths about my Sephiroth theories and ideas, and it seems like Nomora's been listening, or somebody's been listening.
I know, you've nailed a lot of them.
With Ever Crisis, because, with the Masamune, but, and I've talked about that enough, but I think I would love to see them have a finality to Sephiroth. We absolutely need it. Otherwise, you have to kind of do a sequel after Dirge Cerberus, and it doesn't, it's too much of a gap,
it's
and 20 years.
Complicated.
Too much. So I would love to see and this is where I say it's the same story but a revised story, right? I don't suspect it's going to be, at the end, there's the flash of the characters and you think the world blew up and it's over. I would love to see a finality to Sephiroth's character. And for that to happen, I need Sephiroth to have some character moments, because as it stands now, Sephiroth will never appear again in part 3 after the Northern Crater, where he's in the crystal and he kind of goes into Cloud's mind. And don't believe he speaks ever again. Having played it recently, correct me if I'm wrong, chat. Until you see him at the end, doesn't speak, just floats there ominously. You fight him, goes into Cloud's mind, doesn't speak, and then he dies. So I would love Sephiroth to have more character turns. And Ever Crisis is creating a lot of interesting opportunities for this. And I talked about this a little bit. I personally would love Sephiroth to have his own live stream sequence, not in the vein of Cloud with healing, but kind of the opposite, where he's kind of, because we've already seen him floating around the live stream. This is where he is, actually. Yeah. And he's kind of rebuilding his body. I would love for him to kind of reflect on his life, think about Genesis, think about Angeal. Let's see some meaningful stuff. Use the Ever Crisis. They're amazing. The CG ones of him when you have the wing that's made out of clouds and stuff. Right. High art stuff, right? And then we get to the point where Jenova is complete. At the end of FF7 Remake, there's a song called it, but all of her cells, the reunion, come back together, and Jenova is theoretically like alive again and moving around and speaking. Does she speak? We don't know. I would love to see it. Sephiroth, think of the character opportunity. What is the most compelling moment in Sephiroth's story, in my opinion, is when he is in Nibelheim and he sees Jenova in the room and he says, "Mother, we're going to take back our planet." And it's this eerie, uncomfortable, but, engaging things. Like, what is this relationship? This twisted, horrifying relationship between him and Jenova.
What relationship?
Imagine if Genova's complete. She wakes up and talks. Right. There's an opportunity there. Does she denounce him and say, "You're nothing but an insect. You're just another garbage person from this planet I don't care about"? And then he kills her. Whoa. And then takes all of her power for himself. I don't know why I'm in focus. Yeah. And then after that, or does she wake up and say, "Yes, my son," and embrace him in this creepy thing? Like, there's so much opportunity there. And man, I would hate for them not to explore it. Right? It's just sitting right there.
I honestly hope that is how part 3 opens. That we get the flashback of Sephiroth and maybe in the live stream. But I want to know the making of the villain. And you can make it a tutorial, right? Like, let's see it like that. We had Cloud's flashback. Let's do Sephiroth's. I think it'd be amazing.
Can you imagine it? Yeah, it's just
so man, I'd
real there.
Getting excited.
So much.
It'd be awesome.
It's so much. It's just so valuable.
I could talk about a million other things that I want to land, Evan.
But the next time
I want them to land, but I mean,
we have 3 years.
There's no rush, but I guess gameplay. I have no worries about gameplay. They already said they got the Highwind up and running. You're going to be probably fighting Shinra troops in air dogfights. I can't wait for it. I'm not worried about that at all. And they already said it's going to be one explorable world map. You land anywhere. Like, that's pretty much all I was
over. That's crazy.
Yes. Add a jump button or I'm going to, come for you though.
I know, I need a jump button, but
but
as long as they don't make it the action button as well, like they did in Final Fantasy 15.
Exactly. Or, make the action button the jump button, right? It's not that big of a deal. It's just like, and anyway, I could talk about it all day. The character moments, I'm not worried about it. They nailed them. After seeing like the church scene with Aerith, like the care that Nomura and the team put into Aerith's character. Cause you got to remember, Rebirth is Aerith's big moment. It's her big goodbye. She's going to be in it clearly because, the Advent children, like Cloud hallucinating and seeing her. So she's going to be in it. But that's her moment, man. That's her big moment until the end when she, calls the live stream. That's her thing. And I suspect they'll expand on it. But, the next game is going to be very much like other characters' moments. Obviously, Tifa leads the party at one point and takes care of Cloud. There's going to be a huge Tifa moment, huge Sid moment. He's going to lead the party for a bit too. And it's just like, there's so much that has to happen. We played it in tandem with Rebirth. Me and we played the original, and we're like, part 3 is gonna be gargantuan. Like it's
gonna be massive.
Insane how much content.
It reminds me a little bit of it could be like Celis going and finding all of her friends. That is kind of Tifa on the Highwind with Sid finding her friends and finding the world again in Cloud.
Absolutely, man. And I mean, the live stream sequence, I believe what they did with the Aerith farewell, what they did with some of the other scenes, I think we're all going to ball our. It's going to be like a
gonna be
legendary
brutal.
in gaming what they do with the because it's already like with the old graphics an emotional roller coaster and just one of the most profound scenes in gaming history. Everybody, pretty much everybody agrees with that. It's going to be special. It's going to be really amazing. And we'll probably have, I suspect we either have the Aerith revelation in the live stream sequence where she's like, let's face the reality together, Cloud. We have to accept this. This is what happened. That she died and you couldn't save her. Or Sephiroth fully breaks Cloud with that information at the Northern Crater. And he says like, that's when Cloud just completely is like, Hojo, please give me a number. It's going to drive him to just lose his mind. So one of those
I go
two
back and forth on that. I think that the crater is probably going to be it because it's like, it would just be sadistic to be like, you think this is what happened.
Yeah.
And then because like,
he already does that.
They do it with the photograph, right? In the original game of like, I'm not going to be in that photograph. It's going to be some depiction that Sephiroth has created and Tifa has to confirm, no, that's actually what it was. For Sephiroth to say, oh, you think that's what happened with Aerith? Tifa, what happened? And then for Tifa to be able to share, like
she's already shown she's just depressed. Tifa, like she's horrified.
Yeah. Like her bloody hand was on your cheek because you were holding it there, Cloud. I mean, that's the sort of
what
thing.
What does Sephiroth say to Cloud in Remake when he first meets Aerith? He appears and he says, "You can't save anyone." Remember that?
Oh yeah.
He's gonna say, "I told you you couldn't save anyone. Why didn't you believe me? It's okay. That's why I'm here to help you. I told you it's all right. You don't save anyone. She's dead." Oh man, it's gonna be sadistic, and it's just set up so well. So yeah, I picture maybe that, and then still some like sort of revisiting of it in the live stream, and more from like an acceptance standpoint. But it's tough though because there's a power in Aerith not appearing until the end because of the loss of her and kind of feeling that echo throughout. It's like, wow, she's just gone. Yeah. She died, and then at the end being like, she's still with us is a really profound thing. So I like that. However, it's also really cool to have that Advent Children sort of echo with like the dream world of seeing Zack and Aerith. So I could see either one working, but I'm telling you, man, I trust them on the storytelling. Like whichever they choose, it's so well told from front to back.
They haven't given us reason to not trust them, especially after Rebirth. I think after Remake, everybody was like, I'm not really sure about these whispers. Like, gosh, where are we going? But with Rebirth, it's like you get these characters, you get this story. And so let's see what you do.
Totally. And listen, I think the only criticism I have of Rebirth was really just the sometimes when they go wacky, they go a little bit too far. Like
they're wacky.
Like I love the wacky stuff, trust me. But
I did too.
The only time, because I was just so engaged in the story, was when you fight Don Corneo, right? And it's like I hate this guy. Like he's not even that funny because he's just like he's disgusting. He's like an assaulter of women. Like
he's evil.
It's not funny. Like I don't need to fight him for 5 phases. And all this stuff. I'd rather just focus on the main story. But the good thing is, when they dial in on the serious stuff, okay, we got a 4-hour movie of the last few chapters of Aerith's goodbye. Like they dial in on it and they deliver. So it's not really something we have to worry about. It's not like a wacky moment is going to spoil the ending or something. So I don't really think there's anything to worry about. I mean, I said the same thing when Remake ended. I said, why are you doubting them? All the scenes were beautifully done.
They were amazing.
It's just a new one that made you go, what's the next game going to be? Turns out it was the same exact story, right? So why are we questioning again?
Sure.
I suspect the ending will be a little bit improved, is the word I'll use. But yeah, it's not going to be like, and then, Vincent, I don't know, like married Tifa. And then it's not just going to be like completely different, nonsensical story.
That is something we've never heard before. So.
Yeah, exactly.
It's perfect.
Yeah, but I feel like that's what a lot of people are acting like. It's going to be complete chaotic, nonsense. So I don't suspect it personally. I suspect they'll stick to the same. And I would also love to see them include more of the compilation, like Dirge of Cerberus. We got Deep Ground in there.
Nero and Vice,
in the freaking land war at the end with Diamond. Bring him out. Let's bring him out and have him die. Like whatever. It's a revision of all the compilation, not just.
I'd love to see
FF7. Let's have those characters. Let's have Yuffie get revenge on Nero. Let's have Vincent fight. What's his name? Vice. Let's have it all happen. So I would love to see it. Let's have it all included. And then Genesis is a whole other conversation. But yeah, I'd love to see him at least in a flashback.
But so curious where Genesis is going to fit in with all of that.
I said he comes in the Sephiroth live stream sequence. That idea, like he shows up and he's kind of like the almost let me help you, old friend. Like I now work for the goddess Minerva, essentially. I'm, hey, why not stop this, man? And then I would love it if Sephiroth like destroys him. I think that'd be awesome.
Oh,
like,
man.
I think that'd be pretty cool to like fully sacrifice his humanity and his connections to his own life and his friendships.
For a lot of people, that would be a redemption arc of Sephiroth for him to take out Genesis like that.
And then imagine if Genesis is kind of like in and out a little bit, but then at the end, Sephiroth like kills him. Maybe Genesis is trying to help us or something, and then Sephiroth destroys him. There's a lot of cool things. But for me, I want Sephiroth character moments. I want character turns from him, not just until the end. And then at the end, he goes like, he dies, and that's it. Like it's the only kind of emotion.
I think you're right. I think the only way we can get that is through flashbacks, because he is not in his faculties entirely post the Genova stuff. So what is it about him that people really cherished again before suffering did take over and numbed him to everything? So what a conversation, Phil. I feel like we could keep going forever, and we got to have you all back on because this is amazing. You always bring such great insights, but the wells are deep with you. And I love for us to be able to just kind of have some of that. That's so great. So thank you so much for sharing your time. What do you have coming up next, and where can people find you?
Well, we've been working on our couples channels a lot, me and Aliya. So since we were both on, why don't you check out our Philip and Aliya YouTube channel and our Instagram page is the same title.
What can we expect from the couples channel?
Yeah, what is a couples channel?
I've never heard of it.
Should Wade and I get one?
As you know, get one. As we know, as you guys know, we do a lot together. We cosplay together. We travel a lot. We make art together. We draw. We write. Whatever it is. So we decided, why don't we just put this all in one spot instead of it being like randomly as my channel, her channel, whatever. So we just found a place where we could almost for like a keeping it organized for ourselves. Idea we could do it. We just started dumping it there, and then it's doing really well. People are enjoying it. So we have more sort of engagement activities coming up, wedding planning leading into our wedding celebration. So get ready for that. And of course the proposal. If you didn't get a chance to see my proposal, we were featured on Good Morning America talking about it. You can see that on our couples pages and channels as well. And
we will link all of this.
Beyond that, Aliya is always doing her thing. Check her out on Twitch. She's a fantastic artist, streamer, voice actor too. She's amazing. Vocalist, which you may hear her sing soon on Twitch for the first time.
Oh wow! Okay, I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised because y'all do literally everything. So
you might have to stay tuned for her promises to keep cover. So get ready. But we're always having fun, man. As far as me, you can still listen to my art analysis if you want about Final Fantasy and other titles over on my YouTube channels. And you can find us anywhere. We're all over the place, but it's such a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate you guys having us on.
Thank you.
And being so kind. And it was a pleasure to get to talk to you. Like Noctis, we've had the chance to talk at PAX East finally for a while. And it was so good to sit down again and discuss everything.
Absolutely. Well, again, cannot thank you enough. Everybody go like and subscribe to Phil and Aliya and all of their channels. And you can find those in our description just below. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. And stay tuned because we're not done yet. We have more of the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth lecture series coming up, including more interviews, as well as lecture plays and video essays coming soon. We'll see you soon. And until next time, walk tall and let's mosey.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks to Phil and Aliya for the awesome interview. Thanks for taking the time to be with us. Thanks to Husky by the Geek for our theme music. We love it. And thanks to Nick Smith for our graphics. Enjoy your time out there as a single father. You're doing great. And most of all, thanks to you, viewer. This show is brought to you by viewers like you, and we really appreciate you. Hope everything's going great in your life. We'll see you next episode.